Somlomo.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we have called us to govern this province. We ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of all our people. On God, on speed, that ichedrende ons vergadrings. Ons dino diege weisel hier en ons motive saver sal home. And that ons sal help om ons tekort komenge de workom. En al ons beslate and op te dra. Sikelela Nkosi ilizwe lethu nabantu balo. Umisele Nkosi ukulunga kwiphondo lethu. Nkosi sikelela iAfrika. Gcina abantwana bayo. Kokela Nkosi inkokheli zayo. Inike uxolo Nkosi iAfrika. All this we beg in your most holy name. Amen. You may all be seated. Good afternoon, honorable members and our premier, leaders of political parties, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Just for process and of course, to understand that we've got the honorable members who are in the virtual platform, and of course, we've got the honorable members here in the House. I must first thank that the honorable members are now slowly coming into the House in the chamber. It's so nice, it's so comforting that we're taking the opportunity and the advantage of doing so. The honorable members who are in the virtual platform, please, in terms of the standing rules in the hybrid session, the only opportunity that you have to speak is once you have been acknowledged by the presiding officer through having activated your hand, not your microphone. And of course, any other stakeholder, do not activate your camera or your microphone. The honorable members, you know, we've been having the virtual meetings and hybrid sessions for the longest time. I will not go further, but to indicate to all of you that the standing rules are fully in force, and in terms of the Powers, Privileges and Amenities Act, and therefore I implore the honorable members to cooperate in terms of Standing Rule 40, that we treat this as our house and ensure that it is orderly and within the decorum of Parliament. Honorable members, there is a special business that I need to deal with before we proceed with the order of the day. And I wish to request the Honorable August to rise. Honorable August. Thank you. Pursuant to the adoption by the House of the report of the Conduct Committee on your failure to submit your members' disclosure forms timeously, I hereby reprimand you for breaching paragraph 11.2 of the Code of Conduct for members of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. The honorable members have to abide by the principles, rules, and obligations set out in the Code of Conduct, and your failure, sir, to do so is a serious transgression. I trust that as the member of this House, you will learn from this experience and you will not be found wanting in this regard in future, and that you accepted this reprimand by the Speaker and this House.
Thank you, Speaker. I accept the reprimand and will ensure that I do not submit late again.
Thank you, Honorable August. You may now take your seat. Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Now we will begin with the order of the day. Madam Chief Whip, are you ready that side?
Good afternoon, Speaker. I am.
Okay. Thank you, honorable members. I recognize the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much. In regard to the subject for discussion, that takes precedence in this sitting this afternoon. And then in regard to the interpellation in the name of Member Klego, that interpellation is withdrawn, Speaker. And then questions 2, 5, and 8 stand over to the next sitting. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip. And of course, in the order in which you have put that motion, I wish to put it to the House. Are there any objections to the motion, honorable members? No objections, motion agreed to. I now recognize the Honorable Derek America, who has moved a motion for a debate. Thank you, Honorable America.
Thank you, Speaker, and good afternoon, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, as I rise today to introduce this debate, also, pardon me, I do so in the knowledge that the issue before us is one of extreme importance. It is my hope that this debate will see this House focus its discussion on concrete measures to improve the lives of our people. Because the truth is that our people are suffering. For many, life is harder than it has ever been in living memory. And as elected representatives, we are responsible for helping them. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, our people will not be helped by high-minded political theory and ideology or another raft of empty promises. They will be helped by solid, accountable, clean government. They will be helped by services which are delivered efficiently and quickly. And they will be held by a government which strives at all costs to put citizens at the forefront of every decision it makes and every policy it pursues. Deputy Speaker, time and time again, the Western Cape government has demonstrated not only its ability, but its unflinching will to fall into the former category. Across the length and breadth of our province, this government is doing more than any other. In all but a few cases, our municipalities are leading the way in clean governance, in service delivery. They are pushing hard to help the Western Cape's people to stand on their own feet and giving them the tools to create the lives they deserve. The results of this uncompromising desire to innovate and improve speak for themselves. clean audits, well-maintained infrastructure, towns and cities that claim the highest life expectancy and the lowest unemployment levels in the country. But behind all of this is a provincial government which works to ensure service is delivered at a consistently high standard to all the people in the province. But in all that, but a handful of cases, the sad reality is that the Western Cape municipalities stand as an exception to the rule when compared to the rest of the country. Deputy Speaker, when I look at how some parts of South Africa are run, I'm shocked and I'm saddened. I was not surprised when news broke that some polls are predicting that the ANC's voter share has fallen drastically, even to as low as 40%. This is what has happened to a once glorious great party which has consistently placed its own interests above those of its constituencies for 30 years. Deputy Speaker, there was once a time when the ANC fought against injustice in this country. Today, they continue to fight equality as hard, but they now work to enrich themselves and to steal from the public. To my colleagues across the aisle, I would offer the following piece of advice. Listen closely to what is said during this debate and begin to govern as effectively as this province does. If they do not, Honourable Deputy Speaker, there will come a long overdue day of reckoning. This day of reckoning for the ANC will be in 2024. Up until now, the electorate has largely accepted the ANC's liberation myth at face value. They now want political parties that do things and get things done, not liberation movements that dream about doing things. It is my hope that some of the initiatives highlighted during this debate will inspire and shed light on the way forward at a time in which the country is desperately in need of ethical and competent leadership. I thank you, Deputy
Thank
Speaker.
you very much. I now call on Honourable Mbimbi. Order, members. Honourable Mbimbi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and good afternoon to you, to the Premier, to members of the Cabinet, and other honourable members. The ANC welcomed this debate in the House today, but we hope that it will not be used as a point-scoring exercise. The people of the province, which rejected outright DA governance in at least half of the municipalities of the Western Cape last year, want us to take the question of service delivery seriously and give an honest assessment of the status of our municipality. Sadly, we know the drill already. Just like last year, the Honorable America and the DA stood up in the House to give sterling reports to DA-run municipalities and condemn coalition-run ones. Opening the executive summary of its 2020 report into combating corruption in local government in the Western Cape, the Dulaoma Institute at UWC says, and I quote, "The Western Cape outperforms other provinces in terms of its municipalities, maintaining a relatively good record of financial management and good governance practice." So we give credit where credit is due. Despite this track record, corruption is a concern and affects many municipalities to varying degrees. I close quote. In supply chain management, the report indicated that corruption is not visible in the award or the price of the goods or services, but it manifests later when payment for work or goods that were not delivered. In fact, the City of Cape Town had a case such as this, and the Auditor General found it as a material irregularities. other areas where corruption may manifest in our municipalities in the province, according to the Dula Oma Institute,
Order, members.
includes where corruption is also rife. It's rife in human resource management,
Order,
human
members.
settlement, land use and building control, and job opportunities such as EPWP. That's the area where mostly DA performs corruption. It will be foolhardy for the ANC not to recognize that our municipalities and municipal system in the Western Cape are financially sound. But we have always insisted that being financially sound does not equal good governance. Unqualified Auditor General reports and clean audits may well mean unqualified Auditor General reports and clean audits may well mean clean governance, but not good governance.
Order, members.
Too often we have seen public participation processes being used as a tick box exercise by many municipalities. Too often we have seen development projects trumping environmental concern. Too often we have seen poor areas being neglected in waste removal, maintaining of infrastructure, and proper sewage systems. If anything, the Western Cape and our municipalities continue to reinforce apartheid spatial planning and development. Here in the Western Cape, we can see which areas are receiving the best municipal services and who lives in these areas. Here in the Western Cape, there is stark difference between the town and the so-called township. Here in the Western Cape, especially in our rural towns, we can see who lives where by merely looking at the infrastructure and waste removal. The town is pick and span. The townships have heaps and heaps of garbage dumped while the potholes are a lived reality. We don't need to go to an ANC province only to see potholes. We just have to go to the poor communities of the Western Cape to see them.
Order.
We must stop this
Order.
blame game.
Order. Honourable member.
We
Honourable
just have to
Honourable
go to the
Mbimbi.
poor communities
Honourable
of the
Mbimbi.
Western Cape to see
Honourable
them. We
Mbimbi.
must stop this blame
Honourable
game
Mbimbi.
and find an easy
Please
way
put his
out of
microphone
just
off.
throwing mud.
Honourable Mbimbi, can you take your seat, please? Hello? Honourable Mbimbi, I've said 6 times. Can you take your seat, please? Okay, I know you focused. Premier, what's your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, I'm sorry. I mean, even the honourable member said there's too much noise.
No. 1 minute. We have to give anybody who stands up the right of a point of order. Honourable Kondo, you are not the chair. I'm sitting here. Please keep quiet. Honourable Premier, what's your point of order?
I agree with the honourable member. There's too much noise in the House, Deputy Speaker. And I mean, I couldn't hear what he was saying about the potholes in the other provinces. If you'd repeat it, please.
Honourable Premier, I don't know if that's the point of order, but Honourable Vimbi, your own party is making a huge amount of noise that even I can't hear you. Honourable Nkondlo, can you stand up, please? Honourable Nkondlo, honourable members, can you just give yourselves, your colleague, the right to listen to me? Honourable Nkondlo, firstly, pointing fingers at me about you. There needs to be some level of respect. I'm presiding in a debate. When I ask, when you stand up, the party has to keep quiet. Similarly, if anybody stands up on this side has to keep quiet. It is a matter of due respect in a debate. So all I'm asking that when the Premier or any other minister or any other member stands up, you allow them the right to speak because that is their right according to the rules. That's all I'm asking. But please don't get angry at me because I'm enforcing the rules. So I sit as a chair and all I'm asking that when I ask you to raise, everybody will keep quiet. You can then speak.
Deputy Speaker, can you please do the same to your own party?
Correct.
Because they've been making noise and you keep quiet when they make the noise.
No.
So apply the rules in accordance. And until you've got a barometer or a test of anger, don't make assumptions that I'm angry. I am not.
Okay, then sit down, please, and do not interrupt when we have somebody rising up out of their seat. What's your point of order, Honourable Dugmore?
Deputy Speaker, my point of order is that this House, the members of
what's your
ANC,
point of order on the
is
debate?
that we've long called, we've asked that you and the speaker do not chair
No,
these
sit down,
meetings.
honourable
We want
member.
a chairperson, a
Sit
neutral.
down, honourable
You
member.
are facing charges which have been going on for 6 months and we don't even know the outcome
Honourable
and you are
member,
chairing here.
You've
We
just
want a
travelled
neutral
with
chair.
Speaker.
We want
so
a neutral
I'd
chair.
like to ask what's your point of order. Sit down, please, and let's continue the debate. Honourable Vimby, would you like to continue? You may proceed. You may proceed, whether we hear you or not.
Can I? How
Thank
much
you,
time
Honourable
do I-
Vimby.
How much time do you
My
still
hand
have,
is up,
Deputy Speaker?
You got 3 minutes, 39 seconds.
But
I'm watching the time.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
1 minute.
we just
Honourable
have to
Honourable
go to
Vimby,
the poor
Honourable Vimby.
communities in.
Just sit down. Your own party's got a point of order. Honourable Lecker, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I may not recall whether you have made a ruling on the order that was put forward by the Premier of the province. I didn't catch that one properly. But two, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is that I would humbly request that you apply a principle of mutatis mutandi, which means when one side does something, it must be treated equally
Honourable
to the
Lecker,
other.
what's your point of order?
My point of order is consistency with regards to your ruling,
And Honourable-
Deputy Speaker.
How am I supposed to? Honourable Lily, I'm not talking to you. I'm listening to Honourable Lecker online. Please do not shout at me, otherwise you'll have to leave the house. Honourable Lecker, Honourable Lily, do you want me to answer your colleague or do you not and want me to focus on you and ignore your colleague? So let's just obey the rules here. Honourable Lecker, I did, and you can check with Hansard. I said to the Premier that wasn't a point of order for the record,
you.
and I repeat that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honourable Lily, if you have a point of order, stand up, but you're wasting your own colleague's time.
No, you
No,
can't
no,
waste.
you can't talk to me when you're sitting down. Right, you may stand up. Yes.
Must I step aside? All right.
What's your
I
point of order, Honourable Lily? Look at me.
No, you are saying I must not sit down when I'm addressing you. I'm saying your colleague, the DA colleagues, they're over there. They were the ones who were making the noise. Hence, we are saying you are biased in a way.
No.
Please be impartial, and please not be don't do what you are doing. You must
Okay.
treat all of us equally
Honourable Lily, I haven't
as
seen you.
a speaker
Honourable Lily,
of the House.
I haven't seen you for a long time, but if you recall in the last 10 minutes, I've been calling order continuously to both
But
sides.
they
of the House.
continue to make noise in your presence.
Yes, correct. And both sides. So, Honourable, your own party cannot finish their speech. He's now down in time. And you went overseas with the speaker. Over to you, Honourable Vimby.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. If you want to see potholes if we just have to go to the poor community of the Western Cape, you will see the potholes. We must stop this blame game and find an easy way out of just throwing mud at the national government. While the cutting of services to indigent households happen in a number of our municipalities, the latest is the city of Cape Town, who plan to restrict water of 40,000 indigent households. Poor people in our province complain about the municipality first deducting their tariff before they get their units of electricity. Now, the city of Cape Town targets poor households for water restriction. Do these households have swimming pools? No. Do these households have large gardens? No. Do these households have 3 to 4 cars to wash? No. Do these households play golf? No. Yet, these are the households which are targeted by the DA-led city of Cape Town. For their part in studying the resilience of our municipalities after the impact of COVID-19, the School of Public Leadership of the University of Stellenbosch indicated in December last year, and I quote, larger municipalities with more buoyant and diversified rate services user charge bases fare better than their smaller counterparts. The composition of the local economy also played a major role. Those dependent on agriculture, where the drought had broken, fared better than those reliant on tourism and hospitality sector, I close quote. Deputy Speaker, our municipalities in the Western Cape can do better. we must acknowledge that it is often the smaller municipalities which have a smaller rate and service charge base who have gone in the direction of hung council, which have led to collision. The ANC must be emphatic that while it respects the right of voters to vote for a party of their choice, and while we hear loud and clear the voice of the voters saying we as political parties must work together, collision do bring about instability. Indeed, when a council is hung, the voters are forcing political parties to work together. And while it is strengthening our democracy, unfortunately, it is a case of smaller parties often getting to work the municipalities and service delivery suffers in this instance. We have seen this in a number of instances in our province and can easily point out to two examples, especially where I come from in the Bitom municipalities as well as Kanaland. There should be no doubt that Kanaland found itself in the situation where it did because there was no outright majority for a particular party. Putting aside the political and unjust interference of the Provincial Department of Local Government, who often take sides for party political reasons and covers up, our people must realize that a vote for a smaller party brings instability to service delivery. Yes, it may strengthen our democracy. Yes, it may be that people choose the party of their choice and the party will stand up for them, but we have seen all too often these one-man parties in council causing unnecessary delays in decisions and services. Let us elevate this debate today to ensure that we have better service delivery for the poorest of the poor. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Gumbi. Before I call on Honourable Kayla Murray, I'd just like to remind the House that we have a tradition in the House. This is Honourable Murray's maiden speech. Let's give her the time to be able to complete her speech. Thank you, and I now call on Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Members, and most importantly, to all the women who call the Western Cape home. Today's debate on the state of municipalities is a critical one. And as we observe Women's Month, it's essential that we also reflect on how a well-run government, and particularly our province's municipalities, can empower women. Deputy Speaker, I have seen firsthand how where we govern, this results in the empowerment of women. Veronica is here today, Veronica, and she has told me about how she was able to attend council meetings in rural Swartland and how that also helped to empower her. By being able to attend these meetings, she was able to voice her opinions and be heard by an elderly council. This empowered her to represent herself and to have a say on issues particularly affecting young people. She was also able to give her input on where and how the municipal budget was spent and what programs were necessary to address youth unemployment, a critical issue in our country and our municipalities. The DA-led Swartland municipality empowered Veronica by giving her a seat at the table, incorporating her feedback, and including her in their programs. This enabled her to learn how to engage with key stakeholders, create petitions, interrogate policy, and help keep those living on farms and in rural towns informed. My maiden speech, thank you. Not only did this encourage her to join the DA, but it also empowered her to realize her full potential as she later completed her digital marketing qualification in addition to her journalism degree at Edinburgh. Her personal agency and drive have of course enabled her to achieve a great deal, but living in an area served by a well-run, DA-led government further enabled her to get to where she is, and it will help her to get to where she's going. Deputy Speaker, the right to equality is enshrined in our Constitution, yet many women in our country are still fighting for equal opportunities. This is in terms of pay, this is in terms of employment, this is in terms of land ownership, and much more. And it's compounded by crisis-level GBV and femicide rates, which show that a lot more still needs to be done to ensure that women can truly enjoy their rights. Having said that, the DA-led governments in this province are working tirelessly to achieve equality for all. This is done by ensuring competent and transparent governance. And contrary to what the opposition might believe, we do this through clean audits. And not just clean audits, the DA-led provincial government further ensures that this province is able to have well-run governments by working hand in glove with our municipalities. We do this and we support them through institutions such as the establishment of the forensic investigation teams that we have, our monitoring dashboards, and authentic efforts to deepen relationships with municipalities. We do this with each municipality in the province, whether it is a DA-led municipality, whether it is a coalition-led municipality, or opposition-controlled. In fact, the latest Auditor General report revealed that our province had more than half of all the clean municipal audits received in the entire country. Deputy Speaker, I want to repeat that. Our province had more than half of all the clean audits in the entire country. Now, what this translates into, my maiden speech, thank you. What this translates into is street lights that make women feel safe to walk in the evening. It translates into roadworks that assure mothers that their children can get to school and back safely. It creates housing that our grandmothers and our aunties can live out their lives with dignity. It translates into social programs. It translates into social programs that allow women to leave partners who are abusing them. I just want to pause on that. That's massive. An example, this is my maiden speech. Thank you.
Order, members.
An example of how well-run DA-led governments empower women is Chrysalis Academy. Chrysalis helps disadvantaged youth, which include women to enhance their skills, receive psychosocial support, develop critical people skills, and learn about concepts. Please listen, learn about concepts like toxic masculinity. They learn about gender equality. This is a truly life-changing program. Honorable Mbimbi, maybe you'd like to visit through you, Speaker.
Order, members. Members, let's give her the space, please. She still has enough time to speak. It is her time. It is her time. Can we respect her time? She's well within her time to finish her speech. Just please, members, we've done this for everybody. If we can just give her the space. Thank you. Okay. You may proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, while this is the DA's approach to ensuring that municipalities are well run, the ANC in this province has become so preoccupied with trying to grow their meager foothold in our municipalities. The honourable leader of the opposition himself has blatantly been using his standing in
Honourable
the
member, can you just, Honourable Mary, can you just sit down? Honourable Doug, what's your chief?
Deputy Speaker, point of order.
Honourable members, 1 minute. I have someone that has
Deputy
got a
Speaker,
point of order.
point of order. You yourself appealed to us to respect the fact that Honourable Murray was doing a maiden speech. But we all know there's a clear convention that in a maiden speech, you don't attack other political parties. So in that regard, you won't then have an objection if we interject.
Honourable Doug, that's not true. I don't monitor the content of the speech. We just, by the very respect, allow everyone in their first speech. Honourable Murray, you may proceed. I don't believe that's a point of order. And Honourable Murray, you've got a little bit of time left. You may proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The honourable leader of the opposition himself has blatantly been using his standing in the municipality and media statements to try and keep an incompetent acting municipal manager in his post in Kanaland, all the while putting effective service delivery at jeopardy. Through you, Speaker, the honourable leader of the opposition is trying to keep a grip on power, and this is quite literally at the expense of women's empowerment. So as we approach the 2024 elections,
Honourable Murray, take your seat, please. Honourable Vimbi, do you have a point of order?
Just want to find out, can Honorable Murray take a question? Is she
Honourable
willing to
Murray,
take a
would you
question?
like to take a question? No, she said. Thank you. You may proceed, Honourable Murray.
Thank you. As we approach the 2024 elections, I sincerely ask the women of this province, do you want to be governed by a party, the ANC, that actively sabotages your empowerment? Or will you vote for a party, the DA, that goes out of its way to enable you to achieve your full potential? I know, Deputy
Order.
Speaker, I know that the strong women and the strong
Order.
men sitting in the seats of the gallery above, as well as the benches next to me, will vote to empower their fellow sisters. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. I now recognize Honourable Makamba Bochia.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. If there is something we call all land from
Honourable
the
Makamba Bochia, just
Deputy
take your
Speaker.
seat, please. There's a point of order from Honourable Dagmar. Honourable Dagmar, what's your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, the point of order is about the fact we're very happy that members of the gallery are here to listen to Honourable Murray's speech, but you yourself, Deputy Speaker, know very well that people are not supposed to clap. Now, the bias we are talking about is it's a DA member, and if it was an ANC member and the ANC member supporters clapped, then you would have ruled them out of order. But you are blind, you are biased, so you just don't see that. You actually don't see it because of your bias.
Honourable order members, can I ask that the gallery refrain from participating in the debate? Thank you very much. I understand that that is your first visit. Honourable Makamba Bochia, you may proceed.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. If there is something we can all learn from the 2020-2021
Honourable Makamba Bochia, 1 minute. I can't hear you very well. Order members, you may proceed, Honourable Makamba Bochia.
Never finish. Deputy Speaker, if there's something we can all learn from the 2020-2021 Western Cape Municipality Audit outcomes is that form is celebrated over substance, especially in municipalities led by the Democratic Alliance. The problem with the DA is that they run clean municipalities on paper, but on the ground, there is no service delivery. The only good thing that the Auditor General of South Africa found in some of the Western Cape municipalities was the quality of the performance reports on paper and nothing else. And that is so because 25 municipalities spent a total of 32 million on consultants, money that should have been spent on service delivery in order to cook their financial statements for purposes of reporting. Another reason, Deputy Speaker, why millions of rands are spent on consultants is because of nepotism, where the friends and family members of those in power who occupy power positions despite lacking relevant skills. In the city of Cape Town, common indicators and targets exist only on paper, but due to lack of systems and processes, they are never achieved. You have a situation where the municipality pays for goods and services that they never receive or pay a contractor, and then there is no work done. Take, for an example, the situation in Nyanga in the Mau Mau settlement, where the city was busy constructing houses, and midway the whole project stops because the paid contractor has run out of funds. The result, Deputy Speaker, was that the residents now had to pay money from their own pockets to finish the projects and then move in, only for the city of Cape Town to come running later armed with eviction notices. Similarly, the audit found that most municipalities reported on service, but not on their quality. On paper, they write that they installed taps, but do not report on whether those taps are working, only to find out the communities do not even have access to water. If there's something that the DA-led municipalities do so well is to benefit their friends through contracts that are unnecessary at the expense of service delivery. External contractors are being paid for excessive standby hours for doing absolutely nothing because there is a lack of needs analysis by the municipalities. It is no surprise that the irregular expenditure across 27 municipalities in the province sits at 1.23 billion. The Provincial Minister of Local Government is being used as a machinery to punish hung municipalities through the power of PES, in which the DA has no control. Deputy Speaker, the aim is to make those municipalities ungovernable, as is currently the case now, and they fail. Then this is done in order to indirectly punish residents so that the next time they are forced to vote for the DA. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Honourable August.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, corruption and wasteful expenditure are extensive in Western Cape municipalities at present. The Hawks are investigating a dodgy land sale in Swartland municipality, where both the Speaker and the MEC Anton Bredell failed to investigate after good counsel Jeremy Papers handed them evidence of questionable financial transgressions related to the sale. In George, it was found that a DA councillor, Mr. Sterkronier, was implicated in an irregular investment of 350 million into Old Mutual after good leader Patricia de Lille laid a formal complaint at the public protector. In Plettenberg Bay, the Bito municipality contracted 3 containers to store emergency housing material. Upon investigation, these units were found empty, resulting in wasteful expenditure. In 2020, the City of Cape Town spent 43 million irregular in response to provide emergency housing for homeless people at the start of lockdown. The SIU investigation comes after a complaint laid by Secretary General Brett Herron. The Auditor General in his recent audit report states that municipalities in the Western Cape are showing continuing service delivery challenges as they do not have adequate systems and processes in place to measure the number of informal households within its boundaries. Another finding is that municipalities do not report on the quality of service they deliver. Irregular expenditure amounts to 1.23 billion incurred at 27 municipalities in this province. So there we are to debate the DA-sponsored topic so that they can self-congratulate and inflate their toxic political ego. The DA's tactic of celebrating clean audits for political mileage is like praising a fish for swimming. For the rest of this session, let's not compare this province to ANC-led provinces, as people are suffering here as much as everywhere else in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Honourable Minister Bredell.
Deputy Speaker, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the reality of South Africa and its challenges are playing out in the dusty streets of our small rural towns and in the overcrowded townships in our metros. Speaker, local government is where the people experience the government of South Africa. And the current experience is a very bad one. People in South Africa have come to realize that raw sewage in the streets, leaking pipes, potholes, and crumbling infrastructure is the standards decided on by the ANC. Speaker, even the Auditor General is frustrated. Only 16% out of the 257 municipalities in South Africa can manage their own finances. That is 42 out of 257 municipalities. Honourable Deputy Speaker, it means that 216 municipalities in South Africa are spending money it does not have, or are not spending money it has, not paying for services such as water or electricity, not providing service or not paying service providers, not doing infrastructure maintenance or constructing new infrastructure such as roads, managing corrupt tenders, or simply, Deputy Speaker, stealing the money. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we know that many of the 216 malfunction municipalities are doing all the above and has been doing so since the ANC started to govern the democratic South Africa. Honourable Deputy Speaker, and now for the well-known but still very interesting set of facts. There are 30 municipalities in the Western Cape, 22 unqualified audits with no findings, 5 unqualified audits with findings. That means that 27 out of our 30 municipalities in this province, all the money is accounted for. The findings are relating to the processes and procedures that could be improved on according to the Auditor General. Honourable Deputy Speaker, 3 municipalities of the 30 fall in the category of the 216 municipalities I have described just now, who cannot account to the taxpayers' money it was entrusted with: Laingsburg, Kannaland, and Beaufort West. And there's a common thread, all being governed ANC. Honourable Deputy Speaker, We have been through this so many times, but it still boggles my mind that the ANC, the Honourable Duckmore's ANC, cannot see the problems it's facing. Honourable Deputy Speaker, it simply cannot work with money in an honest manner. Maybe Member Duckmore can help us understand, how did the proud ANC lose its track so badly? Speaker, the ANC likes to preach about democracy and freedom, but all you see where they govern is the neglect, poverty, unemployment, crumbling infrastructure, potholes, and sewage running down the streets. Why do I repeat sewage, Honourable Deputy
Order.
Speaker?
Everybody
Honourable
order.
Deputy Speaker, they can make a noise, Honourable Deputy Speaker, doesn't bother me. Hulle sê in Afrikaans, leeublikke maak die grootste geraas, Honourable Deputy Speaker, so laat hulle maar raas. Honourable Deputy Speaker, because the National Department, ANC Department of Water and Sanitation, got a blue drop and a green drop report. The blue drop report is about drinking water, the green drop report about wastewater and sewage. Honourable Deputy Speaker, these reports confirm, it's an ANC governance, and these reports confirm that the Western Cape is head and shoulders above the rest of the country in both regards. We provide safe drinking water in people's taps and homes, and we work to ensure that wastewater is treated in a safe and dignified manner. Speaker, let's talk about Eskom. Who in the Western Cape is not paying? Who are the municipalities that collect money for electricity but does not pay Eskom? On 11th of August, you can look at the stats. Matsikama municipality plus minus 97 million behind. Beaufort West municipality 78 million. Cedarburg municipality 47 million. Canaland municipality 32 million. And all throughout these municipalities is a golden thread. ANC governance, that's the golden thread. Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Duckmore must stop meddling into the administrations of municipalities. They should actually, the ANC should actually, and he knows the truth. He meets with MMs and asks them to take packages to resign. He knows it. So, Honourable Deputy
Order,
Speaker,
members,
Honourable
order.
Deputy Speaker, the ANC should have actually a step-aside rule for politicians meddling in the infrastructure. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the result of the bad municipal management
Order.
is that investors go elsewhere. That's the bad part. Investors will go elsewhere. Towns and villages lose their energy and attractiveness. Bad municipal managers is stripping people from their basic human rights, such as access to clean water and a safe environment. Speaker, why have we ended up with a situation where the ANC can destroy municipalities with seemingly no consequence? I can offer a few suggestions, and we have also started some of these, or sent some of these suggestions to the President for discussion. And some of the solutions you will find in vulnerable municipalities need to be identified much earlier. We need, when they report or when they are reported on by the Auditor General, it is often too late to turn around or too expensive to turn around. We need stronger and more focused powers to intervene in delinquent municipalities. We need
One
to be
minute.
able to attract
Minister,
and to keep senior
Minister,
professionals in
Minister Bradell,
municipalities.
if you could just take your seat. You've got a point of order. Over to you, Honourable Vimbi.
Rising Honorable Deputy Speaker, in terms of Rule 59 of the Rules of Order, where the Honorable Minister have said that Honorable Duckmore is interfering in the affairs of the municipality. I think that is actually reflecting on the integrity. Can you actually make a ruling? I would like you to make a ruling on that, whether has the member.
Honourable Vimbi, so if he's casting aspersions, I would have to relook, but I mean, I don't want to curb free speech for now because there's always both sides that make accusations. However, I will come back and relook at Hansard and look exactly what he said and refer back to you. Thank you, Honourable Vimby. Over to you, Honourable Bedell.
Deputy Speaker, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we need to be able to attract and to keep senior professionals in municipalities. We need to respect the separation between elected politicians and appointed officials. Implementation of the Municipal Systems Amendment Bill will address many of the obstacles standing in the way of professionalization of our municipalities. We need to implement the Municipal Structures Amendment Act with specific reference to the Code of Conduct for councillors. We should commit to the skills and qualification requirements for members of Parliament and councillors. Speaker, I can continue for the rest of the day on these many other proposals to improve local government. Consequence management is another one. But Speaker, the question remains, are those who are at fault willing to learn? Are the ANC willing to learn? Are the ANC willing to learn? Agbare Speaker, as ons na die afgelope weke in die koerante kyk, sien ons dat die ANC is op 38 na 40%. Hier kom 'n ding, agbare Speaker. Hier kom 'n ding. Agbare Speaker, as ons verder lees, agbare Speaker, is daar 'n skokkende statistiek wat 41% van die publiek sê dat Suid-Afrika is op pad na nêrens of hulle stem nie saam met die rigting wat ons inslaan nie. Dan wil ek vir die ANC sê, hier kom 'n ding, agbare Speaker. Hier kom 'n ding. Hulle sitplekkies gaan min raak in hierdie huis. Agbare Speaker, Suid-Afrika, om Suid-Afrika te red, moet die ANC val, agbare Speaker. Agbare Speaker, om armoede aan te spreek, moet die agbare dakmorse ANC in hierdie provinsie val, agbare Speaker. Om werkloosheid aan te spreek, moet die agbare dakmorse ANC in hierdie provinsie val, agbare Speaker. Agbare Speaker, die DA het bewys dat waar ons regeer, regeer ons beter. Waar die DA regeer, gebeur dinge. Baie dankie, agbare Speaker.
Baie dankie, agbare Minister. I now call on the Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, am I audible?
You are audible. You may proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, municipalities should be the mission and vision aligned entities that uphold the values and norms that guide its activities within the communities they serve. Generally speaking, Deputy Speaker, it seeks to improve the quality of lives of all communities and the services it provides. Sadly, today we are still experiencing some communities which suffer the indignity of sewage in the streets. Why does communities have to contend with the smell of sickness causing conditions? Some communities in the storms we faced over the past few days cannot utilize their streets due to flooding. So as a province and municipalities in the Western Cape still got a long way to go. But Deputy Speaker, I want to say the following. We are in trouble in some municipalities because of cadre deployment. The ACDP believes that the best person for the job, we must move away from cadre deployment. If we look at troublesome municipalities, and the minister has said so, Beaufort West, Matsakama, Laingsburg, Cedarburg, Kannaland, owing the ESCOM millions and millions of rand. But we also realize, Deputy Speaker, that in the Western Cape, we have some of the best run municipalities in the country. Some of these municipalities in the Western Cape also are troublesome municipalities. And it's because the media reports of instability in political and administrative leadership. Politicians are mingling and interfering with the municipal running, and they interfere with appointments. And those things should not be part of providing the services that we need, because we are interfering with the cold face. We're interfering with the bread and butter politics when it comes to service delivery. So it is true that where the ANC rules, there's corruption, there's fraud. Where the ANC rules, there's mismanagement. And I want to say that we need, and I would agree, Deputy Speaker, that the ANC is going to not have the majority
Thank
come
you.
2024. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. I now recognize Honourable Brinkes. Are you online?
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Honorable Deputy Speaker, it is amazing how the city of Cape Town receives accolades for being one of the top cities in the world, despite that half of the metropole was drinking water contaminated with feces. Also, that majority of the residents living on the Cape Flats and in townships are trapped in environments of gangsterism, drugs, gender-based violence, and countless murders. The provincial legislature allows the city of Cape Town to disregard any rules of accountability for the province and residents. Cape Town itself remains the most segregated city as the urban inequalities continue to impact people's well-being. The city of Cape Town under the DA has done flimsy efforts to erase the social and spatial divides. The poor are being further and further removed from the city, reminiscent of the apartheid policies. Development taking place in the Karoo and Garden Route is benefiting whites only, while black and colored people continue to live under appalling conditions. Providing decent housing is at a very slow pace. What are these municipalities doing with the budgets allocated to improve the lives of the poor and disadvantaged communities? The accolades afforded to the DA-run Western Cape Province and the city of Cape Town are not a true reflection of the situation on the ground. Budgets for education are not spent. Lack of schools denying children their constitutional right to education. The number of unplaced learners is increasing. In Paarl, under the Drakensberg municipality, the poor are living without electricity as they cannot afford the service charges for reconnections. But this municipality can waste money on court cases to illegally evict farm workers. The DA-run municipalities in the Western Cape and the legislature have. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy
I
Speaker.
now recognize the Honourable Murray.
Yes, Speaker.
Is your microphone on, Honourable Member?
Yes, it is on. Deputy Speaker, members of the House, first of all, let me thank Member America for having brought this matter to the attention of the House. The state of local government in the Western Cape is of a very high public importance, and it deserves robust but intelligent, solution-driven debating, not grandstanding, not bragging, not accusations, solutions. Then debates like this may eventually take us off the public's list of an irrelevant talk shop. It might help to gain public and media interest in what goes on between these walls. If you look at how many people listen to our debate that's broadcast, it's a shame. Never more than 60. Out of a population of 7 million. And we waste our time attacking each other and bragging about nothingness. I feel that 1.5 hours or more should have been allowed for this debate and not a mere 1 hour. Why the haste? Considering the salaries members in this House earn monthly, I find it strange that only 1 hour is given to debating the state of 30 municipalities that is in trouble here. And I didn't hear any solution to fix the problem. Why the haste? Do members perhaps have other businesses they're busy running to? Aggravating this is the ridiculous notion that giving 2 minutes to each minority party like the Constitution demands, will enable them to adequately and efficiently represent their constituencies.
Thank you, Honourable Marie. Your time is up. Thank you very much. I now recognise the Honourable Bartman.
Just for the Speaker's information, I didn't make a speech, I criticised.
Honourable Bartman,
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Am I audible?
you are audible.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Speaker, earlier this year, this House adopted a local government departmental budget of 309 million rand. In the bigger scheme of things, this is a drop in the ocean in relation to the total Western Cape budget. The budget of this department and every department is directly related to the provincial equitable share formula, as it is simply not enough to erase years of budget cuts and future pressures. Whichever way you look at it, the Western Cape and similarly Gauteng gets shortchanged by national government. The Western Cape Department of Local Government doesn't, however, wait around for the national government to save us. We believe that as residents of the Western Cape, we must save ourselves. And this is why the department has allocated more than 20 million rand over the MTF period to strengthen municipal support interventions in municipalities in line with relevant legislation. It allocated additional 15 million rand over the MTF to provide for capacity building and support to municipalities in the execution of their roles and responsibilities during the 2021 post-election transition period, and allocated additional 3 million for the 2022-2023 as well as 23-24 financial years to fund dedicated project management support for the successful rollout of the Sustainable Infrastructure Development and Finance Facility Program. Further, this department provides legal support, assistance, advice, and forensics to municipalities without capacity. And while we are seeing great innovation and responsible fiscal management by the provincial government, in real terms, provincial budgets will not be increasing, and every cent will need to be stretched to continue to deliver the best possible services to residents. Of the whole national government budget, only 9.1% was allocated to municipalities across South Africa this year in the financial year. And in finance terms, many would consider 10% as a significant statistic. And when viewed in this light, one must ask oneself whether the ANC considers municipalities as significant drivers within the South African economy. When we look at conditional grants as an example, in the 2022-23 year, the national government allocated 1.6 million rand for the local government financial management grant to the Prince Albert municipality. It did not increase, it did not decrease, despite inflation and cost of living increases. So Prince Albert received less in real terms. Prince Albert further received 2.99% increase on the municipal infrastructure grant. Deputy Speaker, inflation is currently estimated at 8%. There are too many examples found in the 2022 Division of Revenue Bill to mention. The provincial equitable share formula and similarly the local version does not account sufficiently for population increases or the cumulative cost of living increases. The reasons these arguments fall on deaf ears is because the ANC spends the country's money because they believe it is theirs. But it is not the ANC's money. It is not the president's money. It is not National Treasury's money. It's not even the province or your local municipality's money. It is the people's money. And in spending it, we need to ensure that we deliver services and clean government at the lowest cost, closest to the people. And the DA governed Western Cape will continue to strive to achieve exactly that because the DA gets things done. Deputy Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bartman. I now recognise Honourable Moran.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Good afternoon, Premier, Leader of the Official Opposition. Deputy Speaker, before I get into my speech, the Honourable America spoke about polls, maybe dancing polls. That's the only poll competition that you can won. The Honourable America also spoke about where the DA governs. They govern the best. Hayden McKenzie and Beaufort West, in alliance with the ANC and other parties, is saying where they govern the best. The DA is bragging about clean audits. They are delivering clean water. The Honorable MEC spoke about meddling in the affairs of municipalities. There's only one member in this house of which the public protector have ruled against, not once, but twice. And we know who that person is. And the Premier fails. And the Premier fails to act against him. Honorable Murray, we've seen that touch. We have seen that touch. And touch, Honorable Fry, touch is a move. Some members who've served on that side have been removed because of touch. We have seen that touch. Deputy Speaker, Draken State Municipality, and we have warned the MEC long time ago that you can't spend money, you're correct, you can't spend money that you don't have, and Draken State Municipality take up a loan. And they've also engaged in Absa Bank afterwards to pay that loan over a longer period. It seems that they won't be able to pay salaries at the end of this month. And you warned you, a dear municipality, Prince Albert Municipality. And we spoke about infrastructure, MEC. Surits is running in the streets in Prince Albert where the DA is governing. The ANC had thought that members participating in this debate today, especially members on the provincial government benches, will raise the debate. Not so? The same old narcissistic, tried song, we are the best, the ANC is the worst. The only thing that the DA is really the best in is at conniving, colluding, and covering up. The DA wants us to believe that they are the party of good and clean governments, yet the reality, not the Premier's reality, the reality of our people and communities we live in are far, far from the Premier's reality. The reality is that for people in rural areas, the safety plan 2 years later is a complete failure. The safety plan meant to ensure better municipal safety and municipal systems to ensure the safety of our communities. Last week, the Honorable Barnes stood up in this house and asked the head of this provincial government on exactly what the MEC for Community Safety is doing in regards to rural safety and to jack up safety systems in our rural municipalities. The Premier could not answer. The Honorable Barnes asked him whether he agreed that the safety plan excludes the rural areas where 47% of drug dens are in this province. The Premier could not answer. She deliberately asked him about LEAP because she knew, as the rest of us did, that LEAP is simply pumping more money into expanding the Metro Police that existed long before the safety plan or LEAP in the city of Cape Town. The Premier stands up in this house and tries to spin, when in reality the safety plan is a complete failure. Do not refer us to the 1,000 officers launched and now wearing city of Cape Town badges like the Metro Police. Where is the 3,000 officers you have promised us, Premier? 400 million rand. Over half the budget of the Department of Community Safety and Policing Oversight went to the city of Cape Town. The Premier and his safety for MEC throw their hands up in the air and say, we can't force the city of Cape Town to account on these monies. Said so. Indeed, while the DA attempts to portray its municipalities as shining stars, it increases rates and tariffs despite the rise in cost of living crises. The residents of the city of Cape Town are still paying the water tariffs, despite day zero being cancelled and despite the continuous mismanagement of water by the city. Therefore, we face another water shortage. Talking about clean governance. Well, let us hear what the DA thinks of clean governance. It is the fact that the Portfolio Council for Finance Services, Stag Bonnier, together with George Municipality's former Chief Financial Officer, Keith Jordan, used George municipal funds, a whole 350 million rand, to invest with Old Mutual, Bonnier's son, who just so happened to be an Old Mutual agent. In fact, it is a fact that Keith Jordan was dismissed for maladministration from George Municipality for his involvement in the siren. Let me repeat, Keith Jordan was dismissed for maladministration. This is on Keith Jordan's record. In fact, that he was dismissed for maladministration. It is now the same Keith Jordan who the DA, through his provincial leader, Summers, there he sits, insists must become the municipal manager.
Order, members, I can't
The
hear.
ANC has evidence that MEC Service, speaking on behalf of the DA, insisted that he would visit Kanaland and have a meeting with the DA caucus to ensure that the DA's party processes were followed. The evidence is
Order,
clear that
order,
that
Minister,
Emily
order.
Summers insisted
Order,
that he would
Minister.
visit Kanaland
Order,
with his
Minister.
colleagues, Emily Bradell, who will handle the local government issues while he will handle the DA issues. The case in Kanaland proves the things that the ANC has insisted on. One, the DA is not squeaky clean, as they would want to profess. Two, Emily Summers' involvement and his insistence that he is involved as one is the one representing the party political issues prove that Keith Jordan's position in George and Kanaland is a classical case of cadre deployment. MEC Summers must be involved in Kanaland because Keith Jordan is a deployed cadre of the DA. That's a fact. But problems with the DA municipal managers did not start
Order,
in Kanaland.
members.
Point of order.
Order, members. Members, both sides of the House are talking to each other.
Speaker, have you stopped my time?
Both sides of the House, and I've said twice to Minister, and please do not, you're not here to control me, Honourable Nkondlo. Please, your own member can barely hear himself speak. So it's both sides of the House. Honourable Vimbi, Moran, you may continue.
Speaker, how many time have I left? One and a half.
Speaker, on a
minute?
point
1
of
minute
order.
15.
Speaker, there's
Yes.
a hand up
One and a
online.
half.
There's a hand
Thanks,
up
Speaker.
online.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. How can we forget Esequa?
Honourable
Where
Moran,
Deputy
my
Speaker, on a
apologies.
point of
There is a
order.
point of order online. Just stop the clock. Honourable Bartman, what's your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, I would like to know in terms of Rule 59, whether you could look at the Hansard and indicate whether Member Moran is casting aspersions or reflecting on the integrity or dignity of the Minister's Summers. Because if a member wishes to bring improper or unethical conduct on the part of another member of this House, they must do so via a substantive motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Bartman. I'm going to be talking about that at the end of this debate, but Honourable Moran, you may proceed.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. Free speech, as you have said earlier on. All of this happens while MEC of local government throws his hands up in the air and refuses to hold municipalities like the city of Cape Town, Drakensberg, Matsikama, and Stellenbosch to account. The DA are masters of cover-up. But when the MEC refuses to act, the ANC here will act. The city of Cape Town has received notifications of material irregularities, one for payments of goods and services not received, and the other for paying contractors excessive standby hours. The ANC will follow up with the Auditor General's office to inquire whether the AG is using the necessary legislative instruments to hold the city to account. This provincial government must stop interfering politically in our municipalities and cover up corruption. This Premier must stop protecting MEC Bradell and hold him to account for all the public protectors' report that found against him. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognise Honourable America.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, let me respond to some of the remarks made by the speakers, and I want to thank them for participating in this debate. But there are certain inaccuracies, if I could put it that, or blatant propaganda being perpetrated in their speeches by the honourable members. Let me start with Honourable Mkamba Boita. It is well and good to have generalizations and make sort of sweeping statements about non-delivery of services, but nothing concrete per se. One thing I can agree with her is that in certain instances, consultants, she mentioned a figure of consultants. Consultants is not necessarily a bad thing. I think in some instances you need to appoint particular technical skills to deliver a service, particularly in rural municipalities where they don't have the competencies. But I want to come to Honourable August. Honourable August, you know that in terms of an old report, that the public protector brought out about the investment in the George municipality. There are certain actions that the public protector asked the municipality to take. It was done. There was no specific loss to the municipality. So to rehash that particular report now in this debate is a bit rich on your part. As far as the 2 or 3 empty containers at municipal grounds in Bitter municipality, for which the municipality incurred expenses for over 2 years. You know, I was there with you at the time, but it is even worse than that. That municipality was governed by the ANC, and we uncovered also over 10 million rand that was misappropriated, and a forensic report that was investigated was never tabled in council by the ANC. I agree with you. As far as the city of Cape Town, the 40 million rand that you say that the SIU uncovered with regard to the procurement of emergency shelters during hard lockdown, that is an old sort of accusation that's leveled against the city, and I don't even wish to respond to that. But I want to state a grossly inaccurate figure that you mentioned with regard to irregular expenditure in this particular province. I want to state it on record, and it's very clear that of the almost 22 billion rand of irregular expenditure in this country, only 2% occurred in the Western Cape, and that equates to 457 million rand. And most of that was incurred by the city of Cape Town, and certainly no loss in terms of the Aegis report were sort of experienced by the city of Cape Town. But let me put it further. In terms of frivolous and wasteful expenditure, and not the 1.43 billion rand that you're talking about, Honorable August, but let me put it further to you. In terms of unauthorized expenditure in this country, almost 21 billion rand was incurred by municipalities in the country, of which the Western Cape incurred 1.2% only, which equates to 244 million rand. And that is part of, and no financial loss was incurred. So, you know, to carry on about that, Honorable Christians, I agree with you when you state the whole notion of cadre deployment. It's Honorable Dagma's ANC that implements this destructive policy of cadre deployment that is destroying our municipalities in the Western Cape. And I also agree with the Honorable Christians that Honorable Dagma's ANC is deliberately trying to destabilize our debate so that he can deflect the misgovernance of the ANC in the Western Cape. Honorable Marais, I thank you for your input. The only way in which we can, you know, provide solutions to this mismanagement in the country is to vote Honorable Dagma's ANC out of power. And then lastly, Chair, I'd like to come back to Honorable Maran. He praises the Central Karoo District Municipality for its quality of drinking water, clean water. It's always been clean water. It only became muddy when the ANC took over the municipality. So it's rich, but I'm not going to waste my time saying too much about Honorable Honorable Maran. But let me just conclude with the remaining few minutes I have at my disposal. So I would like to appeal to everyone who serves in public office, our Deputy Chairperson, to never stop reaching for ways to do better. While we have heard many statistics and accusations and official measurements from Honorable Bartman of governmental performance during this debate, we should never forget that governments are made up of people and are there to work for people, Honorable Dagmo. We need to inculcate a culture of accountability and ethics amongst councillors and officials, including ourselves as elected officials or as elected representatives, because we are ultimately accountable to the people who elect us and whom we serve. They are the ones who have entrusted us with that responsibility. We must do the right thing all the time, Honorable Dagmo, Honorable Lily, and all colleagues present, even if no one is around to observe our conduct. Furthermore, we must put in place systems that cannot be corrupted and put equally incorruptible people in charge of those systems. It pains me, Honorable Maran, when we witness what happens in municipalities such as those in the Central Karoo, where this is not observed. When officials who are meant to act as guardians against corruption are suspended and dismissed without regard to due process and the rule of law, this creates fertile ground for corruption.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Honourable
Deputy
America.
Speaker.
Your time is up. Honourable members, before I conclude this part of the sitting today, I'm going to deliver a ruling straight away in order to keep things out of the way. So earlier, Honourable Vimby raised a point of order on the statement alleged by Minister Bredell pertaining to Member Dugmore's alleged interference with local government personnel and management. Now, a similar order was also raised by Honourable Bartman pertaining to a statement by Honourable Moran where he was referring to an alleged conduct of the Minister of Local Government. So, Honourable Members, it's characteristic of political debate to go beyond the facts, and I recognise that. And in the interest of upholding free speech and enabling debate, healthy debate in this House, I note that both members may have uttered some elements that could be perceived to fall under Rule 59.2 of the Standing Rules. In the interest of maintaining the decorum of this House, I wish to take the opportunity for both members to acknowledge that their statements may be inflammatory and request them to take an opportunity to retract. Honourable Moran?
Speaker, what have I said? What have I
To
said?
retract any aspersions cast against the Minister of Local Government.
What have I said?
And I will ask the Minister of Local Government to retract any aspersions cast against Honourable Dugmore. Thank you very much. Noted, Honourable Moran.
Same with me.
Thank you, noted. I so order. Thank you very much. Just give a minute and the Speaker will take over.
Order, honorable members. And thank you, Deputy Speaker. Now we will start with the interpellations. The first interpellation by the Honorable Member Van Vogel to the Minister of Health, Dr. Noma French Mbombo. I now recognize the first speaker. I just want to get the whole list of speakers so that I'm able to time it correctly. Thank you very much. I now recognize the first speaker, and that is the Honorable Minister, Nuban.
Thank you, Somlomo Kukuku. Thank you, Member Van Vogel, for the question, the interpellation. The Western Cape has got hospital bed plan 2030 that was based on the research looking in terms of various factors in regard to the not only how many hospitals, but on the three types of hospital, what kind of a needs as according to the population in various areas. One has to consider many factors. It's about the range of factors that includes, among others, the burden of disease, health needs of the population, the local specifics of the geographic area, broader organizational arrangements of the health services, and the local utilization, advances in technology, and so forth. So when Khayelitsha started to be 2012 to be a smaller a district hospital, smaller not in terms of the number of the beds, but the packages that is being offered, noting that the types of the hospital is about the types of the packages that are provided. The higher the level 2, level 3, the more of all the packages in regard to medicine disciplines that are related to there. Now, with the service redesign, that's why, Speaker, we're talking about part of the plan is about the Klerkfontein Regional Hospital, stroke Jooster that is being planned. It becomes a regional hospital. The Helderberg Hospital, it also forms part of the Tigerberg in the Bella area, which is part of the plans. It becomes also the regional hospital. Khayelitsha, Victoria Hospital, and also Mitchells Plain Hospital are ones of what we call large metro district hospital. They are district hospital, but they also consider a higher package, which is some of the packages you also get it also in the regional hospital. Just to make it an example, part of the packages that you get in Khayelitsha that you even often get them in parts of the regional hospital is like the psychiatry, medicine position in all the 340 beds, main beds. You have to divide in terms of how many for what, as according to the local needs. Like psychiatry, it's divided into 60 beds, medicine is 90 beds, orthopedics, 14 beds, surgery, 31 beds, obstetrics, 58 beds, pediatrics that has got 32 beds, and also other packages where you find that you have got even services like the laboratory, the radiology, the ultrasound. They even have the forensic, which is the Tutuzela Health Center, and all of those. So indeed, part of our review, it is to check that at what extent that actually we could be able to upgrade it to the level of the regional. But one has to take into consideration, for example, the current setting it will be difficult to include like ICU and theaters because it's part of the packages. So that's why with the new upcoming ones, you will develop them, the infrastructure accordingly in order to meet the specifics related to the packages that needs to be offered. And then lastly, Speaker, regional hospitals are supposed to take referrals from the other hospital. Currently, the Khayelitsha takes referrals from 7 city health clinics, 4 metro district health centers, the NGOs, and the private health. And also it refers to the Tigerberg and also refers to the Lentegeur for the other, for specialized like psychiatry. So always the regional hospital is supposed to be somewhere in the busy intersection, in the roads where in the areas where the other hospitals can be able to be easily to be accessed. I mean, from those hospitals coming to that hospital, that becomes a referral. So they'll always be around the national roads or in the areas where there's access. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Ngaba. Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Van Vogel.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I'm happy to hear the MEC is agreeing that there is a crisis at Khayelitsha District Hospital. And the MEC and the department confirm a number of times that the situation at the hospital will not improve anytime soon. There's no political will on the part of the provincial government to improve services at Khayelitsha District Hospital, where the frail, elderly, and chronically ill patients are forced to sleep on the floors for days without getting assistance. The NOCOP visited the hospital in the first administration and went on an oversight visit in January 22, and the Standing Committee on Health also visited the hospital this month. In all these visits, the findings were the same. The increased population size, the challenges with referrals to other hospitals, the severe staff and bed shortages, and the Western Cape Government Health capture by agency leads to increased service pressure, which in turn result in patients sleeping on the floor for days without receiving help. The hospital management and board made a request for additional 150 million allocation to help resolve these challenges, but the MEC and department flatly refused this to give the hospital this allocation. In the best interest of Khayelitsha people and in the interest of effective management in improving services at the hospital, we asked if it would not be an advantage to make the KDH a regional hospital. The national government policy on the management of public hospitals indicated that regional hospitals render services at the general specialist level and that most of the care provided is at level 2 and require the expertise of teams led by experienced specialists. Speaker, the need for regional hospital was already identified by this government when it abruptly closed down the GF Justice Hospital nearly a decade ago. Given that the Klipfontein Regional Hospital will not be in operation until December 2032, a deadline that will surely be missed, wouldn't it be an advantage to make Khayelitsha District Hospital a regional hospital now? I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Venfochen. Honorable members, I now recognize the Honorable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, we are well aware of the immense socio-economic challenges that are intensifying in our country. We also know that over the last 10 years specifically, our economy has stagnated and declined, which has tightened the fiscal environment in which governments operate. The natural consequence of that is that the national government has decreased allocations to provinces in real terms, meaning the percentage increases are less than inflation. Honourable Speaker, through you to the Minister, would more money from the national government assist the hospital in the short term, and what could be done over the long term to capacitate the hospital even further? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kaiser Philander. Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Venfochen.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I want to urge the honourable members to resist the urge to politicize healthcare. Here we are talking about the life of the poor people who do not have means to afford quality healthcare at these private hospitals, who in turn are forced to sleep on the floors for days without receiving help. Our role as legislature is not only to hold the executive to account, but we also have to play a role in ensuring that our hospitals operate optimally, efficiently, and effectively, as by the National Policy on Management of Hospital. We have to agree this is currently not happening in any of our public hospitals, be it in Ceres Hospital where the LD are sleeping on the floor, or Khayelitsha and Mitchells Plain District Hospital where there are serious staffing and bed shortages. At KDH and Mitchells Plain District Hospital, the situation worsened after the reckless and ill-conceived decision to close down the GF Justice Hospital. This closure added a burden to service pressure at Khayelitsha and Mitchells Plain District Hospital. It is this decision that has nearly collapsed the public health care in the Cape Flats. To add to this, the population size of Khayelitsha has increased over the past 10 years, and yet the provincial government has not done anything in response to this. Given this reality, the ANC in the legislature is of the view that Khayelitsha District Hospital should be made a regional hospital to benefit Cape Flats people from the full package of general specialist services that are rendered by regional and specialized hospitals. In this regard, we make a call to the MEC in the department to immediately conduct a feasibility study on the suitability of Khayelitsha District Hospital to be made a regional hospital. Additionally, we reiterate our call on the MEC and department to allocate the hospital the 150 million that is requested to address the staffing and bed shortages. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Venfochen. Honorable members, I now recognize the Minister.
Thank you. When I'm listening to Member Venfochen, she makes it as if Khayelitsha being a regional hospital will be able to resolve the issues in regard to the overcrowding and all of those. Just making an example, Khayelitsha Bed Hospital, although it's a district hospital, a large metro district hospital, The bed numbers are more than actually other regional hospitals. Worcester is a regional hospital, George is a regional hospital, and also Paarl is a regional hospital, and New Somerset West is a regional hospital. And if you look in terms of the bed numbers and also the packages that the College Hospital is receiving, some of them are as equal. I did a list of the specializations that are there. So a regional hospital, it is not about the number of the beds in that hospital. It's about the adding the layers of the specialization. I made an example of the ICUs and the theaters. Currently, the socio-economic conditions with a quadruple burden of disease, for example, for injuries and also interpersonal violence. Already, there's a specialization on the emergency medical doctors and also staffing and nurses that are there as part of it. The issue in related to the mental health, which is one of the reasons, the contributory factors in regard to the quantity, to the number of patients coming there. Already, we do have the psychiatrists and also medical officers who are trained as part of the package. Similar with the children, where we've got the pediatrics, we even have subspecialists in that regard. So the member mustn't actually try to make it as if having a regional hospital will result in terms of the lessening up of our crowding. Like recently in the Kailicha, we even have the eye clinic for the diabetics, which you normally find it in the regional hospital. So let's not try to make things as if what is trying to do is trying to resolve the issue. The issue is about how do we close the tap with the social and economic conditions that are happening there. People fight, especially during the weekend, with substance abuse and alcohol being a contributor. The people there are the poor. Some of the emergencies happening there are not related to the trauma, but it's about where Auntie Sarah ended up having fits or ended up having stroke. So these are part of that we are trying to do in terms of how we deliver a responsive package of care, and also the issue of the equitable budgeting. I would love the member also on our behalf to make a recommendation to fight for on our behalf at the national level so that we can be able to get more of the resources. As we have seen, and also it has been confirmed that Western Cape, including the Gauteng, will have their health budgets being reduced in the next MTEF. So the members should be going to their colleagues and ask that it shouldn't be like that, because everyone comes to the Western Cape for the health services. Not only the Kailicha, we've got pressures everywhere. Last night I was talking to some of the people from the Didorans, where now they no longer have being seasonal. They still have to stay and then have to access the services. So having said that, member, I do agree with you. We shouldn't politicize healthcare services. And Kailicha is under pressure just like any other services. But the amount of the interventions actually that we have contributed in Kailicha, that these packages of care that I've been mentioning are as a result of some of those interventions that we have done. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Also thanks to the honorable members who participated in the interpellation. The interpellation number 2, this morning I received an apology from Honorable Kaiko. He is not with us in the House today, and therefore the interpellation has thus been withdrawn. That concludes the interpellations. We now move to questions for oral reply. I just want to indicate to the honorable members, let me just get my stuff here. There are some questions that have been withdrawn here. In fact, there were requests that they stand over, and that is question number 2, 5, and 8. And the honorable members have dealt with this matter, and we agreed with the request by the Chief Whip. And therefore, we're going to deal with the remainder of the questions. I'm just going to request the honorable members who wish to make a follow-up on the questions to remember that when you make a follow-up on the question, the first member who spoke has the first attempt. So I assume that if you ask the question, you would love to follow up. If you don't indicate whilst the opportunity arises, I will give to the next honorable member. And there will be 4 of those, as you all know, honorable members. The first question is by Honorable Dagmo to the Honorable Premier. I now recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you very much to the honourable member for the question. Question 1 and 2. So 1 or subsection 1, the answer is yes. This is demonstrated in the Western Cape Government strategic priorities, its departmental programs, and our delivery track record, as measured by, amongst others, the Auditor General, statistician essay or stats essay, and all government reports. 2, all measurements show that the Western Cape shows way better performance than any other province in South Africa. 2A, no, and 2B, no.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. I now recognize the Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Speaker. As a follow-up, I'd like to ask the question to the Premier that given his answer yes, i.e. the commitment which the Premier says the province has towards non-sexism, can he indicate to us whether he, as the Premier, approves of the fact that the Chief Director for Public Transport is facing charges of attempted rape and committing a sexual act in the Cape Town Magistrates Court as we speak, continues to be in the service of the Western Cape Department of Transport while the alleged victim is at home. Does the Premier support the fact that the Chief Director, given his alleged commitment to non-sexism, is still in his office while facing those charges?
Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And obviously what the honourable member is trying to do is draw me out. We know that these allegations have been made, that charges have been made, and that it is in the courts. We also know that there has been affidavits lodged in the opposite. And we know that the Transport Committee has engaged with the MEC or the Minister on this, and we have noted his answers. So I think that would be where my answer stands.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
Follow-up question. I would like to ask the Premier if next week another Chief Director of this province was arrested and faced similar charges, would the Premier still indicate that in his view it is acceptable for an official of this government to be charged in a criminal court for sexual harassment and sexual abuse, but yet continue in their day job in this provincial government?
Thank you, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much. Obviously, if that should happen, I would, like any person in my position, would have to review the facts and then apply my mind to that.
Before that, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition, all the honorable members, thank you, Honorable Premier. I keep giving the Honorable the Leader of the Opposition because there's no other members. So now I see there's one hand. So I recognize Honorable Fry.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
I've noted the hand of the Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
I'd like to ask the Premier, given the recent Congress, the regional conference in KZN, where no single person of Indian descent was elected to leadership structure, is the ANC clear on non-race?
My point of order.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. I want to request the honorable members that we have got a subject that is here before us. And I want to ensure that there's relevance, Honorable Fry. So the point of order, without me trying to presuppose what I'm about to hear from the leader of the opposition. But if you want to participate, just make sure that there's relevance to the debate, please. Before you come back, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition, what's your point of order?
My point of order was just through you, Speaker, to really ask the Chief Whip of the DA if she could give a workshop to these two new members.
That's not a point of order. That's not a point of order. Don't worry, I will protect every one of us. But that's not a point of order. May thank you, honorable members. Thank you. Honorable Fry.
No, Honourable Speaker, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Honorable Fry. Now, I would like to, there was no question. So that's the difficulty. Premier, you're not going to rise on anything for now. You're going to reply. Please reply, Honorable Premier. Please reply. Okay, Premier.
Joking. Obviously there was a follow-up question. It had a political connotation to it. There was a question about relevance, but the question says whether his government, obviously referring to the Western Cape government, is committed to a non-racial, non-sexist and democratic South Africa. And what I picked up from the honourable member, although perhaps dealing in more the political terrain, but he was talking about whether KZN has the similar kind of commitment to non-racial or non-sexist or democratic South Africa. But what I'm going to say, Speaker, that, I mean, he did make a statement in that on the racial categorization of the ANC in their own elective conferences, but I don't think I'm going to venture into putting an answer into that question. But I think that the point is made, it stands on its own feet. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Order, honorable members. There is now one last opportunity, Honorable Dagmo. Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. So could I ask the Premier through you, Speaker, whether it is the policy of the provincial government that when an official of this administration is charged and appearing in a criminal court for sexual abuse and sexual assault, that the policy indicates that that particular official can stay on in their position? Is that the policy of the government?
Thank you, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much. So obviously what he's talking about is officials in the administration, and each of those officials report to the accounting officers in each of those administrations. And of course, each of those accounting officers need to apply their mind. There is no fixed hard policy that says, should this happen, you will, because you remember that we do say innocent until proven guilty. And there should always be processes on whether you actually say for someone to step aside or not. And of course, that's the question was around policy. But perhaps listening to the honourable member's jibe that came across the floor, that wasn't his question. And of course, I said that that accounting officer applies his or her mind when any of these kind of cases come to them as the leader of that specific department, as the person responsible. Exactly the same thing happened in my case, where I had an individual in my cabinet and I interrogated the information. I sought legal advice, took a few days about that, and then I acted. And I applied my mind. And in application of my mind, it was absolutely clear to me that the individual needed to step aside. And that's exactly what I did. It wasn't based on policy. It was based on leadership, which accounting officers, or in my case, politicians, have to exercise that leadership, apply your mind in order to make sure that we have just and fair processes.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable members, that dispenses with the question number 1. I now move to question number 3, which was asked by the Honorable Ben Vogel to Honorable the Minister of Health, Dr. Mbombo. I now recognize the Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. Thanks for the question, Member Van Vogel, about the pressing challenges that I experienced at the Khayelitsha District Hospital, Mitchells Plain District Hospital. But again, to start why I left off in the interpellations, where across, not only in the metro, across the whole province, across the whole country, specifically now post-COVID, there's a whole lot of the pressure in the health system. Not only because during the COVID, we asked people to stay at home whilst we are prioritizing COVID. It means now all those people that would have come during that time are coming back. And secondly, COVID that has also contributed to some of the three challenges that we know of, which is the inequality, the unemployment, and the poverty. It means that health system has to absorb all of those. We are the ones who feel all the pinch on the social determinants of health. So therefore, Khayelitsha and Mitchells Plain is facing the similar in regard to the violence and safety, the drug abuse, the unemployment, limited economic opportunities, and other factors that contribute to the pressure on the health system, which also it has affected the healthcare workers because as we talk about the long-term COVID, but generally the staff morale after the whole long of period of time where we have this with a COVID pandemic. Therefore, the mental health, which is we've seen internationally that it's one now we find that as part of the quadruple burden of disease that impacts most of it. And unfortunately, not everyone actually comes to the health services, but you'll find now and again where others might come during as an emergency only to find that there's an element of the health services. That's why, Speaker, at the beginning of the year in the budget here, I made a commitment of 30 million for the additional, specifically for the mental health, to strengthen the child and adolescent psychiatry, to strengthen the psychogeriatrics, which is the psychological aspect for that impacts on the elderly, to provide additional medical officers and also to provide additional capacity, specifically in the two regional hospitals that are outside the metro, that is the George and the Paarl. The other part, Speaker, is the trauma, specifically around the interpersonal violence that we've seen. When these police and others talk about the safety, taking note that the actual burden, it firstly comes to us. Before that person probably goes and report that has been beaten up or has been shot at, that person will come to us to be treated. And in some instances, actually, they don't even go and report. We feel that impact of the burden of the trauma in our ECs because you get the emergencies centers where they actually in some of the other weekends, especially in the at the beginning of the weekend, at the end of the month, where we saw many of these cases, the spikes where others come with the trauma and others come also with the mental health and also both of them at the same time. Now, in regard to what is the department doing to address this, it needs the whole of society. These people getting beaten outside the health system. These people smoke and abuse alcohol or sniffing drugs outside the health system. The unemployment and the inequality, it's happening outside the health system. But for us, we ended up being the ones that becomes a safety net in terms of responding to these, even inclusive of having to also to disperse the EMS under the circumstances where they're also assaulted by the same communities. So it needs all of us. From our side, the service redesign, where now we are building additional psychiatry units in the district hospitals, which is ideally, it hasn't been, psychiatry hasn't been part of the package of a district hospital. We're already doing that. And then lastly, because it leads to the last question, Khayelitsha specifically, for example, has got more beds than in any of these regional hospitals that I've mentioned. It has got more beds than actually than any of the other metro hospitals here, besides the two big hospitals, the Grooteskier and the Khayelitsha. It has got more beds than that. You can put as many beds, but the socio-economic factors, it needs the whole of society. It needs all of us. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Ben Fokker.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, during our recent unannounced visit to Kailich Hospital, we heard about the complaint of too much spending on agency personnel. Now, what I want to know from the MEC, what informed the department's spendings on these agencies, and what are the plans by the department to reduce it? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ben Fokker. Before you respond, Honorable Minister, I just want to indicate the line of hands. The first being Honorable Murray, and the second being Honorable Philander. I presume you would like to take a second bite, Honorable Member? If not, then there's a vacancy. Let us proceed to the Honorable Minister.
Now, to answer the question, I think I've been answering the question about the agents. It's not about there's a plan that will be taking agency staff. They become a plan B under the circumstances when there's a high level of the pressure. Because it's the people when, like over the weekends, or in some instances where we've got a spike of, make an example of Khayelitsha, it might be on that night or on that weekend that there are shootings, where there have been mass killings or in all of those. And then it means that you need, and at that time the EC is full, and also you need more staff. And the people who will be able to just come immediately to assist this existing staff is about the agency staff. And probably at that time, you might need an emergency qualified nurse, or you might need an ICU specialist nurse, or if the children's ward is full, you need a pediatric nurse. So therefore, anywhere in the world, you will still need to have these as part of the plan B so that you don't end up having the system to be clogged. But it's not necessary about that when you do your human resource plan, which is our human resource plan actually even has always been getting the clean audit. And if you look at our nursing strategy 2016 to 2030 in terms of what our intentions, and also inclusive also of other categories, including the medical, we have got the plan in terms of how we deal and being responsive to this. And it will be adjusted as now the national has got the 2030 human resource strategy for planning. So the issue of the agent staff is not about that. It becomes part of the formal plan. It's about uvala is KU. It's about when there's an emergency, and also where you know that end of the month and all of those, you'll need those specialist kind of the people that will need to be able to assist. Just like in the case of the COVID, where when you end up having a field hospital, you know field hospital is going to be temporary when you are responding to the COVID. You might not need them full time. So take them on the contract, whether they apply directly or you might get them from the agent, but it's a contract. It's not about a permanent thing, but they assist us. Because there are times where you find that in the Tigerberg, there's a high list of the people for the emergencies that you have to go to theater. And you know you need someone who's got a theater train, who's a theater specialist. That's the time that now you could be able to call for them to come and assist specifically for that. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Murray.
And welcome back to the chair where you belong. Minister, the question is, what are the pressing challenges? And I'm sure you will agree with me, the pressing challenges are less and less young people go to nursing colleges to be trained as nurses. I remember when I had your job, the National Minister Nkosazana Zuma instructed provinces that we need to downsize on nurses. And today, we sit with a huge nursing shortage. What is your plan to encourage young people from going to technicons or nursing colleges to be trained as nurses, instead of going to agencies? Why can't we train our own nurses? We had the best nurses in the country. Now we sit with shortages and the worst crop of nurses. I won't dare go to a state hospital. I'd rather sell my house and go to a private hospital. I will live longer. So I'm asking you, what is your plan? And secondly, what did you do to stop anybody from entering the premises of these hospitals without carrying a gun, a firearm, or a knife to threaten patients? What is your security like?
Thank you, Honorable Murray. Honorable members, I now recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Member Murray. Just to explain, the agency is not, they don't train people. It's similar like the labor brokers sort of. It's about it starts when generally you register to an agent for moonlighting purposes, which is also I used to do, so that when you are available, especially during your off days, you could be able to do extra work. Similar, actually, all health professionals, that's what they do, subject to you meet the requirements related to what we call RWAPs, which is where you have to get a permission from your employer in terms of when you have to do the extra job. So some of them, it's not necessary, it's the people who are unemployed when they register to the agents. Also, some of them is about they choose not to want full-time employment because they will get paid per hour. And when you have got a specialization, you are a specialist, it means that you could be able to say that, okay, I'm working for medical clinic for the weekend, or you work for the government for that particular. So they are not training. So these are the people who have been trained by the system. In regard to the shortage, noting that where I need to wear both caps now as a minister, but also as a former academic who produce nurses as well in South Africa. The issue is about some of them will train and then even provide them bursaries. And then once they complete their community service, I'm talking specifically for doctors and nurses, the pharmacists, and the physio, dental, and all of those. Now, when they're done with their community service, they are out of a post, they are out of the system, because now they've completed their training, they are licensed to practice. However, in order for them to be appointed again by the system, it means there must be a post in the provincial government. So in some instances, there are those where there are no posts. There are people, nurses, doctors, who might still sitting at home, but there are no posts, or there are posts, but they are not where they want to go, especially if they're in the rural areas. Or it might be because there are posts, like currently for us, we've got 6% vacancy rate for the nurses, 4%, I think, for the doctors. So you'll find that the question is about why you still have got the vacancy rate when there's a need, because we do need them. But in some instances, it's a vacancy for a nurse specialist or for a medical specialist. And the people that are getting produced that I mentioned earlier, it's about their generalists. Under the circumstances of the quadruple of disease, where you've got the mental health in that specific area, you will need advanced mental health. We do train them. We've got the Western Cape College of Nursing, which is also a higher education public nursing college, as part of our nursing strategy, where it talks about the various categories that we are training. So we do train them. But as I'm saying that most of the specialists, they'll rather actually to be moonlighting everywhere where it suits them. And then others will find that they seasonal, they'll go for overseas, let's say for 3 months, and then come back and do all those specialization. So there's two reasons that there is a shortage. It's about when now the quadruple burden of disease we have in South Africa, they need more specialists. Number two, it's about even when there's a post, others would prefer probably to be at the urban, to be in the metro instead of working in Maritzburg. And also lastly, it's about where the system doesn't allow to absorb as many because of the resources of the budget, because you cannot use that minimal budget you have and let's say appoint 80%, using 80% for HR, because they still have to buy medicine and all of those. And then the last question was, I cannot recall, Speaker, but I don't think it was related to the main question.
if I know, I asked if the challenge is perhaps safety and security also.
Oh, yes.
What
yes.
you doing about
Yes,
it?
yes, because for the staff morale and also feeling safe. We through the Department of the Safety, when it comes to the tenders and also in terms of appointing the correct security for our facilities, they are the custodian of those. So when we do this tendering, they are the ones who make sure that we get the relevant people and also people who have been, who do meet the requirements of the, what you call it, PRISA. In some instances, some of them, they are not outsourced. Some of them, like in the psychiatry, in the maternity, you need the same people who understand how the setting is so that babies don't get stolen. And also in terms of knowing that there are the staffing shifts to accompany some of the staff when they are done from the shift, especially going to their cars. So the safety of our staff is a priority throughout. However, having said that, you get some of the categories like the EMS, where there are two in the car, in the ambulance, where they have to go into these red zones areas. That's why I was saying to them that when you adapt, actually we get all of this from the SAPs in terms of categorizing whether it's a red zone area or not. That's when now we make sure that they understand that you cannot just go there in an area without being escorted by the police. That actually does make a huge negative impact on the time that they ended up getting to the patient. Because I remember one time that I even accompanied ambulance to Mitchell's Plain, where it took us more than an hour even to access that patient because we still have to wait 30 minutes at a police station because the police were very busy. Because they are very busy. It's not necessarily their core job, but unfortunately for the safety of our staff, we have to do that in addition to some of the devices that we are utilizing in this regard. Thank you, Member Murray. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As for process, Honorable Members, before you come in, Honorable Kaiser Philander, there is 2 opportunities left, and the list is as follows. It's Honorable Kaiser Philander, and the last person will be on the supplementary questions will be the Honorable Member Van Vogel, in that order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Speaker, I have been covered by the Minister in relation to my first part of the question, where I wanted to know if these pressures that are referred to are experienced elsewhere, and the Minister responded that yes, that it is actually experienced across the country. My question to the Minister, Speaker, does the department know whether other provincial departments, how do they intervene in relation to these present pressures experienced? Are there any best practices that the Minister know of in other provinces, lessons learned in other provinces where similar circumstances prevail, Speaker? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kaiser Philander. I recognize the Minister.
Thank you, Member Philander, about the question. Each and every province, in as much as that the whole of South Africa, quadruple burden of disease, what does it mean? We are affected by mental health, by HIV, AIDS, and TB, by the personal, which is injuries and the violence, and then also chronic conditions such as the diabetes and all of those. So that is a South African quadruple burden of disease. But you find that each and every province, you'll find that in certain areas, it might be different in terms of the other one might be highest than the rest. Just to make an example, with Mpumalanga, they don't have even central hospitals. So therefore, they might not have the issues that are related to the patients that will need a level 3, that those patients might need it in Gauteng and the KZN or in the Eastern Cape or in the Western Cape. And then you get some other province like Eastern Cape where you might find that there might be a high level of the HIV, but there might be high level of malnutrition, especially among the children. And then you get where you find that in some instances, like in the Western Cape, people here the economy, and also in terms of noting what is happening next door, your neighbor or it's a neighborhood, a suburb that is next to you, it becomes in your face. In Limpopo, that gogo in Zanin might not have been anywhere else except in the Zanin village, and has been exposed to a condition where when she grew up, there were no lights, there was no clinic anyway. They have to dial whatever they must in terms of being able to get health care. So when the clinic now was end up being built, you'll find that when you ask in terms of how does she feel, she'll be very appreciating to have that clinic. As yet, that clinic, it only offers a package of a kindergarten level. It doesn't provide any package, for example. Whereas, if you talk about the Guguletu versus the Limpopo, it's about Guguletu will say that I've been having this Guguletu CHC in KTC, which is a community health center that also offers 24 maternity and also 24 emergency, and the whole of every day throughout of having full-time doctor and also visiting specialists and the whole package. But when you ask that same Auntie Sarah will say that this government doesn't deliver. It cannot be that we still have got the old CHC and it's becoming full and all of those. So that's why you find that although one is getting the whole full of package, and not only full of package, it's about that level that even those ones at a high level, they come at their doorstep without necessarily even walking furthest, compared to that other one who has to walk very far for a zero kind of a packages. So that's where the challenges are. And also, as we know, that the issue of the resilience and also the issue of the apathy, when people keep on knocking on the doors of the government, in some of the, because I'm from the Eastern Cape, where they say we don't even bother to complain because it's the kind of a conditions we are used to that. Whereas in the Western Cape, the issue of the service delivery, and most of the people, when they protest, they are not protesting because it's really about they are not getting it. It's about that we used to get it. It was a cherry on top. Now probably it's regressing because there are many of the people who are coming to utilize it. It's not necessarily the services change. It's about we have to wait now longer because it's no longer only 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these are kind of challenges we have. And with the Western Cape, as more people coming in to access economy, access education, and unfortunately, these people are still not actually insured. It means that they still have to depend on the health services. And even those who are insured, especially post-COVID, if you have the medical aid, now they don't cover everything. Or you double dip, chronic, you go to Tigerback or to go to the public health services. For emergency, you use it for the private. Therefore, we're not only catering only for those public or vulnerable, we cater for everything. And unfortunately, the queues are getting longer. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Van Vogel.
Dankie, Speaker. Ek hoor die minister, but I want to check, will the MEC consider providing 150 million to KDH, given that the situation at the hospital is worsening? Then how much does the department spend on employing a permanent versus when they recruit one from an agency? Let's use nurses as an example. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Van Vogel. Nuba.
Each and every, as I indicated, Speaker, that there are challenges everywhere. The health system is under pressure everywhere. And you have to apply also the principle of the equity in regard to that. It shouldn't be where that there's a high level of pressures in terms of, I'm talking about where there's a noise, and then you ended up robbing Paul to pay Pauline, and then you ended up those other ones being also affected. Just to make an example, Central Karoo, there might be fewer population, but it's the poorest than compared, for example, in the metro. Metro doesn't have probably shoes, but Central Karoo, they might not even have it. Just making an example, where they don't even have a level 2 hospital, they have to go to Beaufort West, I mean, as a level 1, they have to go to the George and sleep overnight, taking about more than 24 hours. I'm just making an example, Speaker. Coming back to the metro, Westphalia Hospital, which is still the metro, although it's the furthest, which is also not only under pressure in regard to the type of the hospital in terms of the infrastructure. For example, there, we are unable even to take patients, psychiatry patients there as part of even for the 72-hour, because they don't have departments. It is a district hospital, but they don't have departments. Compared to Khayelitsha, where they've got the departments for each and every relevant specialization that is supposed to be the level 2, but is offered in the level 1. It means that for the Westphalia, those patients have to go to the New Somerset. And also the Westphalia Atlantis, where you'll find that all those primary healthcare services, unlike in Khayelitsha, where they've got 2 CHCs, actually 3, they've got Makelma Pongwana, they've got Site B, they've got Nolungile Site C, where they could be able to relieve the pressures that goes to the hospital. But in Atlantis, it means that that hospital has to work dually, rendering services, kindergarten level services that are supposed to be actually supposed to be at the primary care level in those clinics. I'm just making some examples. A Victoria Hospital that gets referrals from the Hout Bay. Hout Bay doesn't even have a CDC. They've got a clinic in Hangberg. They've got a clinic in Mizamayetu. In the middle, the common at the valley, there's no such. And they have to go all the way to the Victoria Hospital. Similar with the Ocean, what is and the False Bay, for the False Bay Hospital that have to deliver for the services, not only for the whole part of the Masiphumelele and the Ocean View, where there is not 24, but if you look at the distance where they have to go to False Bay. But the point that I'm trying to make is about you have to do whatever that you have to do to make sure that you leave no one behind. 150 million for Khayelitsha, we will love anyone who could be able to donate. We will love if the members will be able to assist us to get that money, not only for the Khayelitsha, Kalbrima, Victoria Hospital, and Mitchell's Place. Those 4, these are the large metro district hospital that operate 1.5, it's not even level 1 hospital. There's a way how they have to cover all of these kind of the packages. So for the members, it's not only Khayelitsha, it's all other hospitals, but indeed, there is a need for those. But if you look in terms, lastly, Speaker, in terms of what we have done in Khayelitsha from 2018, we increased the surgical bed. We end up having a 30 beds ward for that. That we have even have a CT scan, and that now we not only for 72-hour, and then we had a psychiatry ward. Now going to have a psychiatry unit. The 15 intermediate care that is happening there, but noting, Speaker, now the Bracken Gate, we have opened it up for the intermediate care, not only for the COVID, but also for other patients who will be ready to be discharged from the hospital, but not ready to go home. We also the outpatients has changed completely, but the point that I'm trying to make, we have done a lot, but we still have more to do. That's why we volunteered to have this violence prevention unit, so that it will be able to help us and also be able to help the whole community in regard to that aspect. I think I've covered everything, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and the honorable members. I now move to question number 4, which is by Honorable Barnes to the Minister of Cultural Affairs and Sport. Akbar Minister.
Our responses, our department engaged with SAFA structures in supporting women's football in the Western Cape. The department also provides support to 7 women's soccer teams through the club development program with transportation and equipment, and supports the UWC women's team with emergency medical services for all home fixtures competing in the Sasol Women's League. And the budget to support women's soccer through the club development program and the UWC's women's team is included in the overall budget and not specified as such for women's soccer. But we do allocate various 40,000 rand per annum for various activities that SAFA may apply for. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Barnes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, die onlangse oorwinning van die Banyana Banyana op die WAFCON World Cup het duidelik vir ons gewys dat ons met meer belegging opsit aan vroue sokker. Ek hoor dat die minister praat van 40,000 wat per jaar gespandeer word op vroue. Maar ek wil net seker maak of ek reg gehoor het of dit 40,000 is of nie. Maar nietemin my vraag is, hoeveel die provinsie spandeer reg deur die provinsie op vroue en hoeveel spesifiek in die plaaslike gebiede? Dankie.
Thank you, Honorable Barnes. Agbare Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. Die 40,000 rand is net wat SAFA kan vra vir verskeie aktiwiteite soos te help met hulle administrasie. Dit vorm nie deel van ons groter budget wat ons wel budget vir sokker en club development in die provinsie nie. En dit strek oor die hele Weskaap. Is nie net gesetel in byvoorbeeld in die metro nie.
Baie dankie, Agbare. Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Gillian Bosman.
Thank you and good afternoon, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, through you to the Minister. Minister, can you perhaps tell us whether the National Minister of Sport has made any additional money available for the development of women's sports in South Africa and in the Western Cape specifically?
Thank you, Honorable Bosman. Agbare Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Gillian Bosman. An investment of 21 million only for women's football was made available through DSEC. And then other than the Netball World Cup for 2023 is also an extra amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Barnes.
Dankie, Speaker. Weer eens het ek nog gehoor dat die minister praat van 21 miljoen. Ek wil ook dat onder korreksie is dit ook ook vir die hele jaar uitgesit, net spesifiek vir vroumense. Ek wou dat eers oor my tweede vraag ook is as ons nou kon deursien dat gedurende hierdie tyd dat daar onenigheid was op die salarisse van mans en vrouens. Wat is die planne van minister en die departement om dit ook te adresseer? Dankie, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Barnes. Agbare Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. Dankie. Die 21 miljoen was spesifiek vir vroue sokker gewees, wat deur nasionaal aan ons toegeken is. En dan ons is besig met 'n women in sport policy, 'n vroue in sport beleid, wat ons hierdie jaar hopelik sal voltooi, wat ons wel ek gaan nou Engels sê equity and equality aanspreek and the safeguarding of women specific.
Baie dankie, Agbare Minister. I've got the other hand online, Honorable Barnes. I've got Honorable Bosman. Is that a retired hand or is that a new hand?
Yes, Honourable Speaker, it's a new hand. None of my hands are retired. They're young and filled with vigor.
You're very lucky. You may proceed, Honourable Bosman.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you very much, Minister, for that response, because we know you do look after the future generations, especially Honourable Barnes's children. But Minister, could you perhaps tell us whether there's been any specific allocations or indications from the National Minister of Sports to support pay equity for female sports people? And perhaps can you also expand a bit more on the DCAS Women in Sports conference that was recently held in Cape Town that you pioneered? Baie dankie, Agbare Speaker.
Lesir Agbare. I now recognize the Honourable Minister.
Dankie, Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Bosman. 5.8 million once-off payment was made to Banyana Banyana, but hopefully we will have this equal payment on our next MINMIC, because I must tell you that all the MECs in all the provinces, we're all women. So we really want equal payment for all our sport women, equal to men. And then our women in sport in Daba was specifically, as I've said, on to safeguard our women in sport and in all aspects that is essential to women. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Honorable members, that's the end of this particular question. I now move to question number 6 by Honorable van der Westhuizen to the Honorable the Minister of Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. Agbare Minister Provincial.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Agbare Speaker, baie dankie aan die agbare lid vir die vraag. Die uitkoms van die vergadering tussen die verskeie rolspelers insluit dit sandparke met die nasionale minister van Bosbou, Visserye en Omgewing in die Kaapstad. Op 7 Junie 2022 was die vorming van 'n gesamentlike Kaapse skiereiland Bobbejaan taakspan bestaande uit sandparke, Stad Kaapstad, Cape Nature en gestig volgens die verbintenis op 7 Junie 2022. Die taakspan is op 15 Junie, 1 Julie en weer op 12 Augustus 2022 byeengeroep. Dit het beraadslag oor die opdrag en werksplan om 'n memorandum van ooreenkoms tussen die partye en 'n strategiese bestuursplan vir Bobbejane op te stel in die Kaapse Skiereiland en in Tafelberg Nasionale Park. Die taakspan berei ook voor vir openbare betrokkenheid oor die konsep strategiese bestuursplan wat vir die 4de kwartaal in 2022 verwag word. Dankie, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable van der Westhuizen.
Dankie, agbare Speaker. Agbare Speaker, ek sou graag van die minister wou weet of hy gelukkig is met die vordering in terme van bestuur van mens en dier interaksie, veral as dit by die bestuur van probleemdiere kom. Dankie.
Baie dankie, agbare. Honorable Minister.
Agbare Speaker en aan die agbare voorsitter van die staande komitee, agbare van der Westhuizen. Ek dink ons is stadig besig om in die regte rigting te beweeg. Dit kom al baie lank aan. En ek moet sê dat ek dink die 2 jaar wat COVID ons bietjie afstand tussen ons gegee het gemaak dat baie van die goed bietjie hak. So ons druk baie hard om nasionale protokols aan die gang te kry sodat al die provinsies op dieselfde wetgewing en op dieselfde manier die wetgewing interpreteer en implementeer tussen mens en dier, tussen die mens en die omgewing. So daar's nog werk om te doen, maar ek dink tussen ons en nasionaal en ons kollegas ons is op dieselfde bladsy, ons moet dit formaliseer en dan die toepassing en die uitvoering gee tot die wetgewing. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie, agbare Minister. Agbare Maran.
Speaker, thanks. I only got one question for the MEC. And the MEC is correct that this is an issue that's coming for some time. And I think we know how the City of Cape Town responded, I think it was last year, about this particular issue when residents and parties involved raised this particular issue. So far that the City of Cape Town even wants to withdraw their ranges when it comes to urban baboon management. MEC, I just wanted to check with you the meeting that took place, whether you have found interim measures to deal with this baboon problem. We know now that the City of Cape Town is going to start an online process, public participation process, with residents, business, and those interest parties starting an online meeting process. But I just wanted to check the meeting that you had with the Minister, the National Department, Sandparks and so forth. And we hear now that out of that meeting, there was a task team that will deal with particular issues around that. Whether there's interim measures that you have found, even if it's temporarily, when it comes to the baboon issue, and if, what are those interim measures? If not, why not? Thanks.
Dankie, achtbare Maran, achtbare minister.
Ja, achtbare Speaker, to the Honourable Maran, there's interpermissions in place. There's a MOU between our departments, Cape Nature and City of Cape Town, as well as Overstrand municipality, a couple of other municipalities, where we support and guide them. And that's actually where this whole debate started off. The City of Cape Town is not happy with the protocol. They want the protocol to change. And the star scheme, actually, there was a meeting called by the national minister to discuss Table Mountain. And out of that, the star scheme, there was questions posed on human-wildlife interaction, specifically pertaining to, so the minister said, but then we need to solve this and let's get all the groupings together. It's no use we sit and we debate or turn this into a function debate. Is it the function of the city or the province or national? We've got legal opinions and we can get another 100. At the end of the day, if you look at the constitution, it's all our business. It's in the province, it's in the municipal space, it's in national space. So everybody must play their part and everybody must come to an agreement, because I also think it's unfair for just the municipality to pick up the bill at the end of the day. And that's where the main is who's going to pay for what and who's going to make the hard calls. If we need to make hard calls, removing an animal that's becoming dangerous to people, or then we start to play a blame game. It's either me or it's the national minister or it's the mayor, and we need to take collective responsibility, and hopefully out of this task team, that will be the result, that collective responsibility, and also everybody is adding to the purse, coming to the table. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I don't see more hands. I see the hand of Honorable Maran. Honorable Maran.
Speaker, last question. Yeah, just wanted to check MOU sign and so forth. Are we going to kill more or less baboons? Going to kill more or less baboons? I just wanted to check whether the MOU capture maybe some of those, whether we're going to kill more, we're not going to kill less, whether it's per rifle or paintball gun. We know paintball gun even kills baby baboons. Whether we're going to kill more, whether we're going to kill less. Thanks.
Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, thank you. A bit of a low blow in a good question and a good answer session, but let's deal with this. The protocol speaks to management of wildlife-human interaction. It doesn't speak to killing more or less or whatever. It's not. It's a serious matter for us. Nobody in Cape Nature wants to give an order, but at the stage when you need to choose between a woman and a child's life and a baboon's life, you need to make hard calls. Normally, and there's never a quick solution. We work with the animals, Cape Nature work with the animals. They will try various measures. They work with the university's international protocol. So it's definitely not about killing animals or not killing animals. It's about managing interaction, wildlife-human interaction. And one of the problems within this, Honourable Marang, and hopefully the Standing Committee will help us with this, is the so-called specialist out there who's retired, and they overstep the boundaries of pulling animals into by feeding them and making them used to humans. We need to have boundaries, and we need to keep the animals wild because they're wild animals. And it's within that where this hard calls, we need to make this. But one of the problems, and that's why this is a national debate, is also all provinces must be on the same page. It's no use something is allowed in one province and not in another province, because a lot of the landowners got land across borders. And then on the one side of a farm, you do X, and the other side. So that's the kind of things. And this protocol, hopefully we will sort that out. And hopefully everybody will get on the same page, contribute towards, and then build our biodiversity that's so important for future generations. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, achtbare minister. Achtbare van der Westhuizen.
Achtbare Speaker, deur u vir die minister. Minister, glo u dat die bestuur van afval 'n rol te speel het om toekomstige wrywing tussen mense en veral dan nou bobbejane te verminder. Is daar maniere waarop die munisipaliteite kan bydra om op hierdie manier Bobbejane minder gewoon te maak of minder te lok na ons woonbuurte toe?
Ja, die kort antwoord. Oh, sorry.
Minister, it's okay. You may proceed, Honourable
Sorry,
Minister.
Honourable Speaker. The short answer is yes. Ja, agbare lid. Vullis en die hantering van vullis speel 'n rol in Bobbejaan bestuur. Kom ons noem dit net Bobbejaan bestuur eers, want die hele, en u sal weet, die hele agenda oor wilde diere en menslike interaksies baie wyeer as net Bobbejane, maar die Bobbejane spesifiek, soos wat ons hulle habitat infiltreer, soos wat met ontwikkelings en natuurlik word hulle uitgeskuif en kom hulle nader aan die mensdom, en natuurlik is die laag hangende vrug vir 'n Bobbejaan is die vullis van mense. So daar spesiale bins dromme wat ontwerp is, wat hulle noem dit Bobbejaan proof, maar ek kan vir jou sê dit hou net 'n maand, dan het die Bobbejane dit uitgefigure, hulle is nogal baie slim. So, maar dit is definitief, en daarom die samewerking tussen regeringssfere, dis waar ons die oplossing gaan vind. Dankie, agbare Speaker.
Baie dankie, agbare minister. And the agbare led van the Westhuizen. I think to the honourable members who all participated, we now concluded this particular question. I just want to appeal to the next question. I'm going to allow the minister to respond and the first opportunity to the honourable member, and then that will conclude the opportunity for questions. I'm just trying to be transparent on the question of time so that we are circumspect of the reality here before us. The honourable member Mvimbi, question to the honourable Minister of Mobility, Minister Mitchell.
Thank you very much. Speaker, am I audible?
You are audible, so yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, firstly, let me thank the Honourable Mvimbi for the question. I think it's a very important question and very topical at this moment in time. So thank you very much, Honourable Mvimbi, for posing that question, for posing this question. Part A of the question, I can confirm that B97, the route between Bokweni to Bellville, is currently still closed for minibus taxi operations. During May 2022, I published the notice in the Provincial Gazette, Extraordinary 8595, notice of 58 of 2022, further extending the closure of the route for a period of 4 months from the 26th of May 2022 to the 25th of September 2022. The affected operating licenses for route B97 have been suspended in the public transport regulation system. Speaker, part B of the question. But before I provide feedback regarding the last engagement with the affected primary taxi associations, regional taxi councils, and the Provincial Executive Committee of the Western Cape branch of the South African National Taxi Council, I want to pause to provide some background on this topical matter. It is important, Speaker, for me to highlight that the closure of route B97 was done in accordance with the provisions of Section 91 of the National Land Transport Act. This decision, Speaker, was taken in consultation with the affected municipalities and the South African Police Services, following incidents of violence between the Paarl Alliance Taxi Association and the Boland Taxi Association. The violence also spilled over to other areas where minibus taxi type services are provided by both CATA and Cadeta affiliated associations. Speaker, I've taken this decision because the safety of passengers, residents, and other persons entering the affected areas deteriorated to an unacceptable level. At the time, the department has invested a considerable amount of time, funding, and resources to engage the affected associations and to find a workable solution. Speaker, I personally facilitated several of these engagements to understand the operational challenges, the reasons for the conflict, and the instability, and jointly to develop sustainable interventions. The National Minister of Transport, Minister Balula, also attended several of these meetings with the leadership of the taxi industry in the province. While these interventions greatly reduced the incidence of violent conflict, and also prompted the 2 regional taxi councils to return to service, there were still some outstanding issues that required further deliberation. Speaker, these outstanding matters were the subject of an arbitration process. Both parties agreed to abide by the outcome of this process. I have to point out, Speaker, that the arbitration is a binding process unless the outcome is taken on judicial review. The arbitration award was released in November 2021 and confirmed that both associations have legal rights to trade on route B97. We have a duty to give effect to this award, Speaker. Since the arbitration award was issued, several engagements have taken place with the affected primary associations, regions, and the Executive Committee of the Western Cape branch of the South African National Taxi Council. The last of these engagements, facilitated by the departmental officials, took place on Friday, the 22nd of July, 2022. Speaker, I want to point out that we never lost hope, and even when there was a deadlock in discussions, and it seemed unlikely that the two associations could coexist, and share the route, the department procured a venue for breakaway sessions between Kata and Kadeta regions to discuss the current conflict areas. Speaker, this session took place on the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th of August 2022. At the conference, the affected parties adopted resolutions in respect of various conflict areas. They also reached an agreement on the sharing of route B97. Speaker, this was followed by discussions with the departmental officials on the 11th and the 12th of August to determine if the adopted resolutions were consistent with the legal prescripts and the transportation plans for the affected municipal areas. The operational dynamics were also carefully considered. Speaker, we assisted the industry to package these resolutions into a memorandum of agreement, but I want to categorically state, Speaker, that this was an industry agreement and not one imposed by this government. It is common cause that the most long-standing and sustainable agreements are reached by consensus between disputing parties. We have thus forwarded this agreement to both the City of Cape Town and the Drakenstein municipality. Speaker, the signing of the memorandum of agreement was set down for the 14th of August 2022, but unfortunately the Kadeta region and its affiliate Paarl Alliance Taxi Association reneged on its commitment to sign this agreement, citing an alleged shooting incident in an area that is allegedly controlled by Kata. The Kata region, Speaker, has however distanced itself from this incident and was in attendance to sign this document on the 14th of August 2022. Speaker, despite my obvious disappointment, I have scheduled further engagement with Kadeta to understand their concerns and to pave the way for the signing of this agreement. At the same time, the department is also exploring other alternatives to ensure safe and reliable public transport between Paarl and Bellville. The route has been closed for more than a year, Speaker, and the replacement bus service provided by Golden Arrow Bus Service has been in operation for the same period. Speaker, I will have to take a decision on the future of this route. The safety of commuters remains my utmost priority. We are working on a contingency plan should the affected associations not be willing to coexist and to share the route. This will include the continued closure of the route in the short term and considering other modal options. Speaker, we are still hopeful that the agreement will be signed within the next couple of days, and this will allow the regulatory authorities to issue operating licenses with passenger demand before the end of the closure period, which is on the 25th of September 2022. Speaker, the Drakenstein municipality has already taken a decision to support 50 new operating licenses in respect of route B97 that will be on an equal basis, 50-50 between members of Kata Boland Taxi Association and Paarl Alliance Taxi Association. Speaker, this process is a contingent on the cooperation from the effective primary associations. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I now give an opportunity to Honorable Vimbe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much to the Honorable Minister for a very comprehensive response, which gave the historical background to the problem. Now, I also take a note that there have been several meetings that were held by the department as well as by the associations that are involved as well. And further noting that, Honorable Speaker, that there was a further extension, as the Honorable Minister indicated, that from May until September. And it looked like there was a failure of signing the memorandum as was expected on the 14th of August. Now I want to check from the minister if this September deadline came, because this was extended from May for 4 months. If now September comes and is not signed, does the minister intend to further extend the curfew that he has on the closure of that route?
Thank you, Honorable Mvimbi. I now recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you very much to Honourable Mvimbi for the follow-up questions. Speaker, firstly, let me say that when I took the decision to close the initial route as highlighted, the safety of the commuter was paramount to my decision. So it would be unfair of me and it would be unjust of me to make a pronouncement of whether I'm going to open or extend the closure at this stage, because I'm guided by the legal prescripts as per the National Land Transport Act, which gives me the powers under certain conditions. I mean, there's still a while to go to the 25th of September, and I have not yet applied my mind at this stage. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, and Honorable Mvimbi. As I indicated, that concludes this question, and of course, the questions in total, and the remainder of the questions will be listed in the order paper. May I now move and request the honorable members who have member statements to get ready, and the first organization is the DA. I recognize the DA. Letter.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. As Women Month continues, we are reminded every day of the many challenges faced by women in the Western Cape and in South Africa. It is simply a tragic fact that to be a woman in this country is to be in constant danger of physical, mental, and emotional abuse at almost any moment. This last Women's Day found many with little to celebrate. While this is a shocking state of affairs, I find some small comfort in the fact that the Western Cape Department of Social Development is doing everything it can to lessen the burden. Often we discuss the initiatives the department has in place to respond to gender-based violence physically, but often overlook the mechanisms in place to address the mental effects of abuse. Along with NPO partners, the department's social workers offer therapeutic support to women across the province and adapt their approach to give the best care to each individual client. We know that the emotional effects of abuse can last long after physical scars may have faded. And this initiative speaks to this fact. Over 33,000 women have made use of this facility since 2019, thus proving its value. Too many in our province suffer emotional and physical trauma in silence, and it is vital that resources such as these are made available to them at every available opportunity. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Plato. Honorable members, I now recognize the ANC. Honorable Barnes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, cultural misogyny and sexist prejudice is deeply entrenched in the Democratic Alliance. Powerful male figures in the DA are preying on their female counterparts and subordinates. Albert Fritz resigned from his position as party leader and MEC in the legislature amidst sexual assault allegations. His party, the DA, protected him from further accountability as Premier Windy refused to hand over Williams' report to police for further investigation. Unathi Lasiti, who has been charged with sexual assault, is enjoying political protection from his party and city council. He is yet to be suspended. This misogynistic behavior has found its way into provincial government, where powerful figures like Mr. Farrell Payne continue to be in their jobs when the victims are at home. Besides the culture of misogyny in the DA, another big challenge that we are dealing with is the issue of infidelity and adultery amongst the DA members, which has prevented some experienced qualifying MPLs from being appointed into the Premier's office, Premier Windy. This shows that what DA members do in the dark, but will find a way of coming to light, as it now affects the functioning of the government. The ANC calls for the immediate suspension of Unathi Lasiti, pending finalization of his matter. The ANC further calls on the Premier to hand over Williams' report to SAPS for further investigation, lest first matter be judged as political assassination. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Barnes. Honorable members, I now recognize the EFF.
The Economic Freedom Fighters is concerned about the tension and violent conduct that erupted this week at the Hatfield High School. The standoff has been forthcoming for some time now, since there has been instability at the school following the dismissal of its principal, Mr. Wesley Newman, by the Western Cape Department of Education. The only sin in the eyes of the department by Mr. Newman was his attempt to try and protect learners and teachers from contracting COVID-19 and possible fatalities, a decision which was supported by the school governing body, parents, and learners at large. Instead of the department engaging the relevant stakeholders to try and see how they can reach a common ground during the scourge of the epidemic, the department took the highway of trying to show Mr. Newman it has muscle and that it can stretch them. Speaker, the results of all of this is a school that is now in a turmoil, with learners refusing to attend classes until their principal is returned. The situation is even out of hand to an extent that outsiders have now infiltrated the school with weapons, drugs, and other sorts of substances. This has prompted police and law enforcement to be called, resulting in learners throwing stones and objects at the police and their vehicles. Speaker, as I stand before you now, state resources in the form of law enforcement officials are deployed at the school 24/7. All this could have been avoided if we had people in government who listen and exercise power coupled with vision instead of greed and dictatorship. Now, law enforcement resources that could have been deployed in townships to fight the scourge of crime are deployed in one school. All this because of poor decision-making of the part of the DA-led government. We hope that going forward, Speaker, the Democratic Alliance will listen to people, because the people will govern. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Makamba Poche. I now recognize the DA again.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, today the House discussed the current status of local governments in the Western Cape, and an often forgotten aspect of this discussion is the prevalence of land invasions and its impact on housing development sites. In communities around the province, housing developments are being put into motion, but in a new and disturbing trend. Many of these developments are being delayed by land invaders who occupy designated land forcibly and unlawfully, many of whom are not the intended beneficiaries. In the city of Cape Town and the province, for example, the Gugulethu infill housing project faced a number of delays as a result of a rapid increase in the number of people occupying the free housing units unlawfully. As a result, many who were supposed to benefit from the housing data system suffered delays and were unable to move into their homes at the appropriate time. Yet, despite the challenges brought on by the land invasion at the site, the city of Cape Town worked tirelessly in collaboration with the community and other stakeholders to protect the project and bring dignity to the affected beneficiaries. It is therefore unfortunate that this situation is further exacerbated by certain political parties, some of which are represented in this House, encouraging this unlawful behavior. Speaker, the ongoing illegal occupation of housing projects poses a massive risk, not only for the province, but also for the country at large. These occupations not only prolong deadlines and place additional strains on our government resources, but they prevent beneficiaries from experiencing the dignity of home ownership. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Maseko. Honorable members are now recognize the Good Party.
Honorable Speaker, the housing backlog in the Western Cape is fast becoming a crisis, and this challenge was created by the Democratic Alliance, who, for years, have been dragging their feet with building decent homes for many residents in this province. The new Woodlands housing development is an example of a government who does the bare minimum and because of improper checks and balances, preventably hurdles all delaying this project. MEC Simmers made public promises to incoming residents that they will be able to move into phase 1 at the end of August. Currently, there is a delay with this as water and electricity installations are stalled due to mistakes that were made with earth numbers. Speaker, these units have been available for occupation 2 months ago already. On my personal inspection, it was found that the development has been vandalized, broken into, electricity cables got stolen, and infrastructure got damaged. Their further inoccupation will result in more damage to property or pave the way for unlawful occupation by desperate home seekers who have been at the mercy of the government, who has no intention of solving the housing backlog. This development has been plagued with challenges as protesting workers, court cases, corporate politics, and various other factors are throwing the completion of this project off course. One would expect the MEC would do this best to stick to the promises and do everything in his power to ensure that the timeliest completion is possible, but alas, no. The new Woodlands development is a needed project that requires urgent interventions to ensure that these residents can ultimately call a house a home. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable August. Honorable members are now recognize the ACTP. Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, this morning I received this message from one of the communities out in the retreat. The message was sent to me to say, morning, I hope it's okay to share this with you. And this is what our current communities are facing. She said, so I'm sitting at the retreat day hospital, but at the MOU. We got here at about 5:30 this morning, not knowing what the procedure was and what we need to do. The only procedure that I can see, she says, is that there is no humanity left in our system. So everyone must sit outside in the cold and wait to be screened. And now what happened? So while we were sitting, waiting to be helped, a mother with a 7-day-old baby is sitting in the cold, and I'm sure that the elderly will be joining soon. This is really sad and a disgrace. We are not animals. We are humans, and don't get me wrong, animals should be treated decently. But I'm taking this video to show you what I'm talking about. Speaker, people are queuing early mornings, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, out in the cold, waiting to be assisted and screened. Surely we can treat them better. Surely we can give them some form of shelter that they can be inside and not outside, waiting in the cold and the wet. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Christians. Honorable members, I now recognize the ANC. Honorable Lily.
Thanks, Speaker. The ANC notes and welcomes the Department of Home Affairs efforts to curb unemployment of graduates in the country. The latest statistics indicate that over 20% of graduates are unemployed. We hope that this number will decrease from the 1st of November this year, when the recruitment of young unemployed graduates for the project on digitization of Department of Home Affairs civic paper records is implemented. Through this initiative, the Department of Home Affairs is ensuring that its mandate of safekeeping of more than 350 million records for citizens and legal residents also creates jobs. This project will therefore ensure that the National Population Register, including the management of birth, marriage, the death certificates, and identities document, will be digitalized. The Department of Home Affairs will therefore work with the Department of Employment and Labor to enroll young people between the ages of 18 to 35, as well as people with disabilities, for nearly 3,000 opportunities. These range from runners, preppers, reassemblers, clerks, drivers, indexers, scanners, quality controllers, team leaders, technical support, and managers. As such, the Department of Home Affairs strives to contribute to job creation goals and the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative by acquiring unemployed youth on fixed-term contracts to assist with the digitization of records. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Lily. You see, the difficulty of 2 minutes is that when you speak, some of us, I was once beaten at school for speaking too slow. So I realized that some of us are disadvantaged with that. So sometimes I listen a bit. Honorable Mare was asking me this morning, how do I get everything I want to say in 2 minutes? You see, the tricky part, it depends on the presiding officer to be able to understand that challenge. But unfortunately, member statement, it's 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask the honorable members to watch their watches so that you help the presiding officer in this regard. The next political party in this 10 is the DA, and following after that will be Akbare Mare.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there's little doubt that South Africa is currently having to tend to countless crises at the same time. Over the past decade, our country has seen a profound decrease in general socioeconomic conditions on all measurable indicators, which has further exacerbated crime in our communities. Yet, despite this very visible trend, the national government has continuously under-resourced the South African Police Service and has prevented our men and women in blue from being able to fully carry out their duties. It is clear that SAPS is not the issue, but rather the people mandated to manage it. This is why we are making the call once again for the Western Cape government to be given the mandate for policing so that residents can truly see crime be defeated in our province. Everyone in this house knows how the Western Cape has gone above and beyond in this regard, whether it be via our safety plan or the multiple dashboards currently being used by the provincial government to allow for data-driven decision-making. On Tuesday, we were able to see yet another example of this in action with the opening of the Joint Operations Center in Mossel Bay. After this concept of the facility was originally conceived by 5 neighborhood watches in the community, it was clear that there was a need for a central location from which a safety partnership with all stakeholders could be conducted. The facility will involve many structures from all spheres and all levels of government, and it will contribute to our all-of-society approach. This approach involves SAPs, correctional services, CPFs, neighborhood watches, local government, law enforcement, provincial community safety, and provincial traffic. Honourable Speaker, the time for devolution is now, and it's time for a capable subnational government to take on this responsibility. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Postman. Honorable members, I now recognize the FF Plus, Akbare Mare.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I rise to put the case for the rediscovery and application of democratic principles in this House to give a maximum of 2 minutes to minority parties like the ACDP, Good, Freedom Front Plus, and Al Jamaa is the antithesis of democracy. The equitable allocation of time for debate should weigh far heavier than proportionality in this House. This formula of proportionality has already been adopted and supported by all parties, including the ANC in the national parliament. In the allocation of funds to political parties in the national parliament is 60% equitable share to each party and only 40% proportionally. That's justice. This is something the DA should learn from the national parliament. Act 116 of this country's constitution states in 2B, participation in the proceedings of the legislature and its committees of minority parties must be in a manner consistent with democracy. And then it says, financial and administrative assistance to each party in the legislature in provinces must be in proportion to its representations to enable the parties to perform their functions effectively. Speaker, you will note no mention is made here in the Constitution that speaking times in this House should be proportionate to the number of members here. Only the finance that parties get should be equitable. And if the DA do not know what democracy is, maybe they must take a feather out of the cap of the national legislature. Or they can never be said to be liberal nor democratic.
Thank you, honorable members. I now recognize Al Jamaa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if we look at the ongoing gang violence, increasing drug-related activities, murders, rapes, most residents on the Cape Flats and in townships are not enjoying safety and security in this province. Law enforcement officers are not deployed in high-risk areas such as Menenberg, Delft, Nyanga, Kailicha, Hanover Park, and the list goes on. The deadly violence on the deadly violence on the Cape Flats has made the lives of majority citizens in the province unbearable. The province has a constitutional obligation to do oversight on local government and their functions. The DA-run province is allowing the DA-run city of Cape Town to deploy law enforcement officers in areas where not necessary. It has allowed law enforcement officers to violently enter the Heathfield Senior Secondary School, to violate learners and allegedly physically touch female learners. These officers are used to criminalize learners who have the right to express their views. The deployment of these law enforcement officers is not always justified, as in the case of Heathfield Secondary School and at anti-Zionist protest actions. These officers should be seen and be in action on the streets in Delft and in Menenberg and in Kailicha and in Hanover Park. We see these law enforcement officers strolling in the CBD in Cape Town, but not in the streets on the Cape Flats. Al Jamaa Party demands that this Western Cape legislature intervenes in how the city of Cape Town deploy law enforcement, and that they should be redeployed on the Cape Flats and in the townships. These are the places where they should be visible and a service to the communities. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Brenke. So, honorable members, I now recognize the DA.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, Comic-Con Africa, the continent's biggest and most largest pop culture and gaming festival, is coming to Cape Town. This is a massive event that will take place next year at the Cape Town Stadium with the backing of the City of Cape Town. Events of this nature raise the profile of our province as a must-see tourist destination. This massive win is bolstered by the province having had a significant recovery in the number of visitors to our province over the last year. In fact, international airport arrivals to our province recovered by 73% in June 2022 compared to pre-pandemic levels. Tourism, and especially international tourism, is an immensely important driver of economic activity in our province. This sector is supported by large-scale events like Comic-Con, which attract thousands of people to our province and provide a much-needed boost to our economy. This is because more visitors to our shores translate into more demand for key industries like events and tourism and hospitality, which further translate into job creation. Before the pandemic, our province had a vibrant events industry. This is due in part to the plethora of outstanding venues and locations we enjoy. The tourism sector was, of course, severely impacted by the national government's lockdown measures, which were at times irrational and were kept in place certainly far longer than necessary. With all lockdown restrictions now lifted, it is paramount that the recovery of the events, tourism, and hospitality sectors be our utmost priority so that we can enable the private sector to claw back much-needed jobs.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. Now, may I request to the honorable members as we conclude the member statements that we allow the executive branch, if there is any minister who wants to respond to member statements. You have only 5 minutes to do so. If there is, otherwise, if there isn't, then that will save us 5 minutes. All right, I do not see any indication. That then concludes member statements. Thank you, honorable members. Now we move to notices of motion in terms of the new rule 151. As you all know, honorable members, all the motions by members must be delivered to the secretary so that they may be placed in the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and of course published in the order paper, as you may see. I also wish to indicate to the honorable members that motions without notice, there's an agreement in terms of the standing rules, Rule 150, that motions that are congratulatory in nature and motions of condolences would be treated in the fashion where the programming authority is to meet, agree in case there is an agreement. If there is no agreement, then then there would be an opportunity for those motions to be dealt with in the House. But in this case, on the 15th of August, there was a session of the Program of Authority, and there were agreements in terms of the list of motions submitted. And I wish to indicate to the honorable members that the list of honorable members who have submitted those motions, and I'm going to read that list in order for the honorable members who have submitted them to be recorded. And of course, it is as if the members were here in the House and presented the motions, and that is how they are going to be recorded. And in order for the honorable members who have shared the motions to have their names listed in Hansard for that purpose. Now, the first motion was submitted by Honorable Bosman from the DA. The second one was submitted by Honorable Christians from ACDP. The second one was submitted by Honorable Barnes from the ANC. The fourth one was submitted by Honorable Kama from the ANC. The fifth one was submitted by Honorable Lecker from the ANC. Honorable members, I now put the motion duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Are there any objections? No objections. Motions agreed to. So the motions, as I indicated, will appear in Hansard as if they were read aloud here in the House. I will now move to the list of motions without notice as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2D. This list could also include motions without notice that were not approved by the programming authority. And the honorable members, I wish to bring it to your attention that you only have 30 minutes. So if the 30 minutes comes to an end, I will duly remind the honorable members, and that will mean therefore any other motion that has not been dealt with, even though you have submitted it, will not be dealt with in this case. I now recognize, before I do that, I've got the list, Honorable Mr. Bogenpoel. I just want to say this to the honorable members. If you change the comma or the full stop, it's okay, but don't change the content of the motion. Because this motion, we all have it, it has been submitted. So read the motion and deliver the motion that you submitted. Otherwise, it then causes a bit of a challenge for us in terms of the standing rules. I now recognize the Honorable Member Nkondlo. Maskal.
Nkosi Somlomo. A motion without notice from the ANC that the House notes with pride the great work done by Mr. Siabulela Sopi, who is unfortunately not in the House because he fell sick. He was supposed to be in the gallery today, Speaker, for his community of Kailicha, and calls on the provincial government to provide him and his team with all the necessary support needed to grow his projects. Further notes that Mr. Sopi founded Future Masters in his community to keep youth off the streets, where they prioritize the needs of young people, including helping with university applications and bursaries. Mr. Sopi is also a member of UDABA, the pop-up Kailicha team, which focuses on giving local entrepreneurs and creatives market access through their quarterly pop-up events. Further notes with pride and joy his recent award, where he was recently named one of South Africa's top 10 outstanding young people by Junior Chamber International in recognition of his dedication to youth development, entrepreneurship and community development, and calls on the Western Cape government to also recognize his commitment to youth development, entrepreneurship and community development, and invest more resources for these in Kailicha and other poor working class communities in the province. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nkondlo. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No objections. Are there no objections to the motion itself? No objections. Agreed to. I now recognize Honorable Nkondlo again.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes and welcomes President Ramaphosa's remarks during the National Women's Day event that the government has committed to set aside 40% of public procurement spending to women-owned businesses, and calls on the Premier and his government to follow suit and make commitments to prioritize women businesses in the public procurement spend of the province. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Nkondlo. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No objections.
Object that is being read without notice.
The objection has been noted and the motion will be recorded in the order paper. May I now move to, thank you, honorable members. May I now move to question number 3 by Honorable Van Vogel.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes and welcome the solar panel system at Kloetville's Primary and commend the Green X Engineering and Stellenbosch University for the donation of these units. Notes further that this is an excellent investment in saving electricity usage as it generates 14,000 units a year, and the school will save 20,000 rands annually on exorbitant rates and tariff charges to school by municipalities, and further notes and welcome that Provincial Primary is one of the 25 schools in the province with smart meters and energy efficient light. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Van Vogel. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No objections. Are there any objections to the motion itself? No objections. Motion agreed to. I now recognize Honorable Mvimbi. That's motion number 4.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Motion without notice that the House notes and welcomes the breakthrough on the case of Intercape driver shootings in Cape Town, as the suspect of the transport-related violence was arrested over the weekend in clubmates in the Cape Winelands, and commend the work done by the detective to bring the perpetrator to book. I so move, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mvimbi. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No objections. Are there any objections to the motion itself? No objections. Motion agreed to. I now move to motion number 5 by Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, on behalf of the ANC, I move without notice that the House notes and welcomes the suspension of a learner in Robbenvale High School, Atlantis.
Honorable Barnes, the motion is by Honorable Dagmo.
Okay, he's not here. Okay.
The rules.
Speaker, I
do
thought
not
there was an
allow-
arrangement since the leader was absent.
The rules do not allow for that. That's the principle. So unfortunately, he misses that opportunity. Thank you very much. It's okay to try your luck. We all do sometimes. may I thank you, honorable members. I now move to motion number 6 by Honorable Postman.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move without notice that the House notes the achievements of the athletes of South Africa's Commonwealth Games team who returned to the country last week. Between them, they earned 7 gold, 9 silver, and 11 bronze medals, which is a particularly impressive feat given the lack of support these athletes have endured from SASCOP and the National Department of Arts, Sports and Culture. Despite the adversity they have faced, South Africa's athletes continue to exemplify the sterling character of South African sports people and to demonstrate why South Africa still remains one of the most respected nations on the planet in the sporting circles. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Postman. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No objections. Are there any objections to the motion itself? No objections. Motion agreed to. We now move to motion number 7 by Honorable Plato.
Move without notice that the House commends the actions of the City of Cape Town in ensuring the resumption of social assistance services in Khayelitsha on the 14th of last month. SASSA suddenly and without notice closed the doors of its Khayelitsha branch, having failed to find an alternative site as the building underwent maintenance. Despite the fact that SASSA is a national agency, the City of Cape Town mobilized to mitigate the agency's stunning incompetence by offering its own buildings for the use of the agency. That shows a clear recognition of the need to put people first on the part of the DA-led local and provincial spheres of government, and a total lack of care on the part of the ANC at the national level. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Plato. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No. All right, the objection has been ordered, honorable members. Order, honorable members. The objection has been noted, and therefore the motion will be recorded in the order paper. Honorable members, we now move to motion number 8 by Honorable Bosman.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move without notice that the House commends the Western Cape Government and the Mossel Bay Local Municipality for officially opening the Joint Operations Centre. The facility will involve many structures from all levels of government and will contribute to our all-of-society approach, which will further our efforts to keep crime under control. It is plain to see that we are going above and beyond our mandates while the national government continues to underfund and incapacitate SAPS. The opening of the Joint Operations Centre is yet another example of how the Western Cape continues to innovate despite the difficulties it faces. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Bosman. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? There is an objection, Honorable Member, and therefore the motion has been dismissed, but it remains in the order paper, and in that way you will have access to it. May I then move to the next motion, and that is number 9 by the Honorable Member Kaiser Philande. I recognize the Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move that the House notes with concern the effects of decreasing budgets on public healthcare facilities and the impact it is having on society's well-being, and that this House further echoes the call for our incompetent national government to prioritize its budgets so that provinces are able to be properly capacitated. The Western Cape continues to deliver quality healthcare to our residents, despite our national counterparts not being able to effectively deal with the fiscal environment in which we find ourselves. I so move, Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member Kaiser Philander. In the light of an objection which has been aired in the House, the motion will be recorded in the order paper. I now move to motion number 10 by Honorable Plato.
Speaker, thank you very much. I move without notice that the House notes with grave concern the kidnapping of 6-year-old Shanavas Asker, who was abducted by 6 men on his way to school a day ago. While all incidents of crime should be condemned, this incident is particularly shocking due to the looking at the boy's age and the brazen nature of the attack. 6 men for a small child. We just cannot condone something like that to happen. The House should condemn in the strongest possible terms the growing spate of kidnappings in Cape Town. Urge the police to employ all of their resources to rescue the child, to find the child, to bring the child back to his mum and dad, and for any member of the public with information to come forward with information immediately. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Plato. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? No. There's no objection. Are there any objection to the motion itself? No objections. Motion agreed to. I now recognize all the honorable members. I now recognize Honorable Bosman.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move without notice that the House notes the achievements of choreographer and dancer Dawn Langdown, who passed away on Monday. Langdown was a driving force behind community theatre for more than 4 decades, having founded Jazz Art Theatre in Cape Town, and choreographed and performed in many of that period's most renowned anti-apartheid theatre pieces. As a teacher, Langdown inspired many young dancers, leaving her influences sorely missed. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Bosman. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being read without notice? Are there any objections to the motion itself? No objections. Motion agreed to. At this point, I need to thank the honorable members for a very constructive day, and of course, to ensure that we are able to conduct the business of the day and the House within the decorum that is expected of all of us. That concludes the business of the day, and may you all have a great evening. Thank you. May God bless you.